recording the session. All right. So, yes, good afternoon once again, everyone. My name is Aziz Adewumi, and yes, you are welcome to today's session, right, on Sage Business Cloud training, right. I have my colleagues here with me. I have in this session, I have Timileyin Okonlawon. In this session, I also have Joseph Ojekunle with me. I have Olabi Oshanade also in this session, and Opsi Abdugani, right? So we are from Droidedge Consulting, right? So just a moment, let me share this. Okay, please confirm if you can see my screen. Right, confirm if you can see my screen. Just 1 minute, please. Just a moment. Okay. Okay. Just a minute, please. Okay. Just want to fetch a manual. Okay. All right. So we are from Droidedge Consulting, and Droidedge Consulting is an accounting software firm, right? It's an IT company that is into configuration, setup, and also deployment, not forgetting training, right, of on business management solutions. Business management solutions ranging from accounting softwares, ranging from CRM solutions, sales and marketing solutions, and the likes, right? So that is what we do, right? We are partners with Sage in Nigeria. We are also partners with Intuit QuickBooks, and likewise Microsoft. So, and not forgetting Zoho, right? So we are partners with these software companies in Nigeria, and we have departments that are capable, right, when it comes to deploying these applications and also training of these applications to organizations and individuals, right? So that is Droidedge Consulting, in a nutshell, right? So let's get right into today's session. So today we are looking at training on Sage Business Cloud Accounting software. So Sage Business Cloud Accounting software, right? So if you check your respective emails, you would realize that we've shared a couple of materials with us. We did share a guide on how you can sign up, for the software. We'll be talking about the software extensively, and we'll also be practicalizing, right? We also shared with us, class exercise, a class exercise document, just like we have here, where the activities that we'll be doing, together, right, is being detailed there, right? The class exercise, very, very important, because activities that we'll be carrying out, right, are outlined, here, right? So we've also shared with us, the outline, right? Areas we are looking at covering, right? As far as the training, is concerned, right? So let's just do a little bit of a walkthrough on what it is we are expecting, on today's training, right? So the training, like we promised, right, would be a comprehensive one, right? It's a 2 days training, 4-hour stretch, right? And yeah, today we are looking at, talking about our organization, which I've mentioned, a little bit. We'll be looking at introduction to accounting software. We'll be looking at accounting and ERP systems, right? For most business owners out there, and even, accounting students or accountants, at large. Most of us, some of us would have heard what ERP, is, right? But you might have just heard the word ERP, you might not really know what it means in details. And what is it when people say this is an accounting software and this is an ERP system? What's the difference between all of those? We'll look at that, in this training, right? We'll look at various types of accounting and ERP systems that we have just to broaden our knowledge, right, as we proceed, right? And system-wise, we'll be looking at setting up, because the whole idea of this training is that we don't just train on how you use the software. We also train you on how you set up the system yourself, which is what we'll be doing together, right? So we'll be setting up the system, ourselves, right? And so we'll be looking at logging into the company, how we navigate within the software, how we create our company records and the likes, how we do one or two setups, right? We'll be looking at the general ledger module, which talks about the chart of accounts, ledger accounts, what are these things, right? How do we create them? How do we chart an account as a business owner, right? And also as an accountant. So these are the things, we'll be looking at as the training progresses, right? And trust me, these are areas you wouldn't want to miss. Trust me. It's an area, you'll be glad that, you joined the training. So that particular area, the general ledger, because that is one of the most important parts of any system, right? Be it an accounting system or an ERP system. So we'll be looking at that also. We'll be looking at how do we create ledger account, how do we create assets, liabilities, bank ledgers. We'll be breaking all of these things down as it relates to practical sense. So please sit back, relax, and it promises to be an interesting ride. So we'll be looking at creating suppliers record, creating customers record. What are those things you need to always look out for when doing these things, right? Not just on Sage, and likewise on other accounting systems. So we'll be relating this, right? This training in line with working with Sage, and also in line with working within, the accounting sector as it were, in relation to practical knowledge, right? So we'll be looking at all of these things. We'll be looking at creating inventory items. So that those things you need to know or you need to consider when creating inventory items. So these are what we'll be looking at. I would also be looking at opening balances. What is the concept behind opening balances? When you hear someone talk about opening balances or closing balances, what do they mean? We'll look at this also in detail, right, as the training progresses, right? We'll be bringing in opening balances, GL-wise, ledger-wise, customers, suppliers, and also inventory, right? And we'll be doing transactions relating to suppliers, right? Transaction relating to customers. We'll be carrying out bank reconciliation, right? As far as the system, is concerned. We'll be doing journal entries, we'll be creating expenses, and we'll also be generating, reports, relevant reports, right? Within these 2 days training. We'll generate relevant reports and the interpretation. So as a business person, when I generate a report, you don't necessarily have to be an accountant. And we'll look at how this, relates, right? And, all together. Right. So there are so many things we are looking at doing: raising of petty cash, raising journal entry, right, generating reports, and so on and so forth. So that is just a quick overview, of what it is we are looking at, right? So we can then go into the training proper. So please confirm if you can hear me clearly, and confirm if you can see my screen, right, before I proceed. So please, you can confirm, via chat, just to be sure we are still together, right, and to ensure we do not miss out on anything. All right. Okay, just a moment. Okay, thank you for that acknowledgement, Godwin. That is well noted. Okay, thank you, Joseph. All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Yeah, thank you. So the chat. Okay, so let's go deeply into the first order of the day, which is we have a little slide here. We'll be sharing this slide, also with us, right? You see, the slide is talking about Sage Business Cloud accounting training. And the first thing is, when we hear anyone talk about Sage, what does it mean, right? When we hear anyone talk about, oh, I use the Sage software, what does it mean? So basically, Sage is a software company, right? And that is being founded, sometime around 1981. And what they do basically is that they are the providers, right? They are the software, or we call them service provider with respect to Sage, right? It is a registered company that has built several applications, right? And you see that here in this last paragraph, we mentioned that the company has since grown to be a leading accounting software provider in the world, right? Not just in Nigeria. So it means the knowledge we are looking at gathering here today is not just pertinent to Nigeria alone. Rather, it is applicable all around the world, right? And a range of the products they have, right, is we have Sage S3, we have Sage 300 C, which is a 300 cloud. We have Sage 200 Evolution. We have Sage 50C, which is formerly called Pastel Partner, right? Then we also have Sage Business Cloud Accounting, which is what we are doing here. Mind you, Sage is a global, software company, right? However, they have a range of, softwares or products out there in the market, right? But these products are also being segmented. That is one thing we should note. They're also being segmented, based on region or continent. Take, for instance, in Africa here, there are a couple of Sage applications that is peculiar to us, or that are peculiar to us, basically, which is some of which we've mentioned here, right? Sage S3, it is biggest, Sage solution with respect, not just in Nigeria now, but in the whole wide world, right? Sage S3 is the biggest, right, Sage solution that it is available, that is available within the Sage ecosystem, followed by Sage 300 ERP, or you call it Sage 300C, right? Then followed by Sage 200 Evolution, then we have Sage 50C. So all of these Sage products here are those products that are, peculiar to Africa, right? Some of them are peculiar also outside Africa, like Sage S3, Sage 300, right? And Sage Business Cloud Accounting. But Sage 50C, Sage Evolution, all of those applications are peculiar to us here in Africa, right? So that is, so we have Sage 100, we have some Sage Line, we have Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate. It goes on and on, but quite a number of those products are not applicable here in Africa, right? So, but these ones we've highlighted are those softwares that companies do use here, in Africa, and also in Nigeria as a sub, region. All right. So now our focus basically is on Sage Business Cloud accounting software. And the thing is, why Sage Business Cloud accounting software? Sage Business Cloud accounting software is one of the leading cloud solutions, not just in Africa, but in the whole world, right? So it's specially or specifically built for accountants, right, and business owners, right, and also lovers of the accounting profession. So what do we mean by this? There are so many individuals out there that do not have accounting background, but they actually want to have a leverage, right? And when you are looking at doing that within the accounting world or within the business world, then of course you can equally be tagged as a lover of the accounting profession, right? So yeah, basically, Sage Business Cloud is one of the leading cloud solutions. And why cloud? Before COVID, right? It's only a few companies or businesses out there that actually adopted, cloud infrastructure, right? But due to the emergence of COVID, so many businesses and companies, likewise individuals, right, have seen how important it is to migrate, to the cloud and computing. And most companies today, they use cloud solutions. And why? Simply because cloud solutions are easily accessible anywhere, in the world, right? Cloud applications are accessible anywhere in the world. It means if you're at home, you can easily access it from a mobile phone or your computer system. When you are, elsewhere, you are not in Lagos, you are in Abuja, you are in Port Harcourt, you are in Warri, anywhere, even if you are in the United Kingdom, right, or the USA, you easily have access to it, right, to your software. So everything anyone is doing, irrespective of where you are, you could have a 5-user license. It simply means every one of the 5 users do not necessarily need to be in the office, right, for them to be able to access the software or for them to be able to generate reports. So that is why companies are adopting it today, right? That is why, as an accountant or as a business owner, if you've not thought about equipping yourself, right, with cloud infrastructures, then it simply means you are still standing, on a long thing, right? So, so now one of the benefits, or as outlined here, benefits of cloud solutions, Business Cloud basically is that it's a cloud software, right? Means a cloud solution, it is very, very accessible anywhere, right? And also it is quite affordable, right? It is quite affordable, right? For anyone that is looking at adopting, the application. So those are some of the benefits of Sage Business Cloud. And most companies are, migrating into Sage Business Cloud today because of some of these benefits. Remember, it is accessible anywhere, right? It is a cloud solution, meaning you can access it from a mobile phone, from your computer system, or any internet-enabled device at all, right? And it is quite affordable when it comes to the pricing, right? But let me also state here that, you see, all accounting systems, right, they work alike. Fundamentally, they work alike. So, and I can assure you that the knowledge you are getting here today, it is applicable or practicable on any other software. We don't just train you on how to just use Sage. We'll be expanding the scope, right, to how it works on other accounting solutions as well. So have that at the back of your mind as we proceed, right? The only thing that just differs, right, between, let's say, Sage and QuickBooks, in most cases, it's just the nomenclature. For instance, you could have something called customer module in the software, and in another software, it could just be called sales module. But the invoicing, the payment, all of those processes, they still work alike, right? So just have that at the back of your mind. Okay. So now, let's proceed into another fundamental thing we need to take note of before diving into the software itself. Oftentimes you hear some, people talk about accounting softwares. And you also hear people, you could go to an interview, or you are talking to maybe it could be an MD of a very big multinational, and someone is talking to you about ERP. You could be asked, have you used an ERP system before, right? Or what do you understand, by the term ERP or the term accounting software? What are the differences, right? Are there any differences? Right? Or for some of us that are hearing it for the first time, what is called ERP systems, and why could it be different from accounting software? What are similarities do they have? What comparisons can we measure them by, right? And please, this is one of those things we need you to take home in this training session or this training exercise, right? But before I proceed, I just want to be sure we are still together, right? Please confirm if you can still hear me clearly, and if you can still see my screen. Please help confirm if you can see my screen and if I'm still very much audible, right? And if you have any questions for me, please just call my attention, drop them, and I will easily answer them, right? Okay, so just a moment, just to be sure. All right, thank you for that acknowledgement, Godwin. So, yes, we are still very much on course. All right, so what is, an accounting software, right? And what are ERP, systems, right? So basically, we drew up, we did a little bit of, comparison between these two. But accounting softwares and ERP systems, these are, tools or software being used by organizations to record their day-to-day activities, right? Their day-to-day activities. And those day-to-day activities they are recording, right, could be financial information or otherwise, right? It could be financial information or otherwise. When I say financial information, I'm talking about maybe invoices, some of those things that have to do with figures, amounts, right? And otherwise, is there some instances where, some applications don't necessarily deal with figures, like CRMs, like sales and marketing, softwares. Maybe you want to use it in sending emails or follow-ups or, and all that, right? That is why I said financial informations and otherwise, right? So, but as a business or as an organization, you need accounting softwares, right? And you need ERP systems, right? But what are the differences between these two? Now, the first point here, an accounting system, accounting software, basically, it helps you in holding general accounting, and accounting and bookkeeping transactions of an entity, right? So, and it simply means if you want to do your basic invoicing, you want to recognize customer payment, you want to capture expenses that is being incurred by an organization or by a business, right? All of these can easily be entered or be accommodated for in your accounting software, right? So accounting software only deals with bookkeeping and bookkeeping only, right? Ability for you to enter accounting related information in your system and to be able to generate reports. But when you talk about ERPs, ERP is enterprise resource planning. That is the full meaning, right, of that term ERP, right? And an ERP system, holds everything a business needs, right, to operate, to track, or to report for, right? So basically, right, in an organization, we used to have several departments, in a medium or large scale organization, right? You could have finance or accounting department, you could have HR and admin department, you could have inventory or store or warehousing, department, you could have supply chain, you could have logistics, all of these are departments. You could have sales and marketing departments. Now, all of these departments, are independent within an organization, right? And what an ERP system does is that other than each department, using different softwares and generating, all kinds of different reports, and they are now standing apart, right? You can embrace an ERP system, an enterprise resource planning system, where every department within that organization is using one software, right? But within that software, the software is capable of handling different functions. For instance, the accounting department will be able to, posting expenses being incurred, invoices for customers, carry out journal entries and the likes within their own department, right? However, the HR, department will be able to do, payroll related activities within the same software, right? They can initiate their payroll related activities, do their payroll computation for the month, send out pay slips within the same software. And at the end of the day, the total payroll expenses would automatically report into the accounting module, right? ERP systems have what we call modules. So it is these modules that individual departments would adopt or would make use of, right? So likewise, inventory department or store department would have their own module within the software, where when they are receiving inventory items, they will capture it within the software. When they are issuing inventory items, they will also capture it within the software, right? And so on and so forth, right? Sales and marketing too will be able to capture their, sales orders, follow-ups, and all of those things like that within the software. So they all would use one system. So it is a very big and robust system So if you go into an organization today and if you have all of their departments or most of their departments using one system, so it is most likely that that software they are using, is an ERP system, right? So that is why we mentioned that accounting system majorly, is being utilized by the accounting and also, also inventory departments majorly, right? But an ERP system, you would have logistics department, supply chain department, you would have HR and admin use the same application, but it's just that everyone has their rights and the modules they use within the software, right? So an ERP system is a big and robust system, right? That helps to facilitate all of these, day-to-day activities being captured by an organization. So another point is that an accounting software, is relatively affordable when it comes to cost. It is very, very low, right? And it is affordable, of course. You cannot compare a software being used by the accounting department and at most inventory department, with another software that is being used, by 5, 6, 7 or more, right? Department. So, but ERP systems are quite expensive and it's being used by mostly medium and large scale, businesses or enterprise. You cannot compare. A one-man business can easily use an accounting software, but a company like Dangote or MTN, and the likes, right, would use an ERP system. So you understand how it works now. So we'll be looking at examples of this as we proceed, right? An accounting software, accommodates finance department operations and, a little bit of inventory, like I mentioned. There are some things, if you have some complex inventory, activities or systems, when you have such scenario like that, most times it is an ERP system that can easily do those, complex inventory management. But accounting systems will do the basic, inventory management for your organization. So ERP synergizes all departmental activities. So you'd have almost all the departments, right, within one software. So the last point here is that an accounting software is mostly limited in scope, right, in terms of what you are able to do with the application. But an ERP system is robust and, to some extent, it also allows you to do some customizations, right, deep customizations to be able to achieve your organization's reporting, right, or him. So ERP system and accounting system, of course, they are being used, to record day-to-day activities of an organization. Okay, so please confirm that you can hear me now. Apologies about that. Please confirm if you can hear me and if you can still see. Okay, maybe I just will share my screen. Okay, so apologies about that. So I was just trying to run us through on the differences between accounting systems and ERP systems. But the basic thing is that an accounting system is limited in scope, and an ERP system, is quite robust, right? And ERP systems allows for detailed customizations, to be able to achieve one or two things, right? But an accounting system, you know, is quite limited, in scope, right, in terms of what it is that it's able to achieve. Okay. All right. So examples of accounting systems, right, or accounting softwares in this case, is QuickBooks, right? Be it QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. So it's an example of accounting system, right? Sage Business Cloud Accounting, right, is an example of accounting system. Sage 50C, which is formerly called Sage Pastel Partner, is also an example of accounting system, right? So Zoho Books is an example of accounting system as well. I have that noted, and also Zero accounting system is also, Busy, Zero. These are examples of, accounting systems. So what they help you do basically at that level is, the bookkeeping, day-to-day accounting record, of an organization, right? But examples of ERP systems include, say 200 Evolution, say 300 ERP, which is formerly called, SCC Pack, right? And we have Sage 3, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, which is called Navision, and also we have Oracle, right? These are examples of ERP systems that is being used by medium and large scale organizations, right? So, if you want to talk about, say, 300, for instance, or Microsoft Dynamics, so what you should think of is, oh, this is an ERP software. So it simply means it's being utilized, by different departments within an organization, right? So, are there any questions, for me on what we've talked about so far, right? Before we now move into, the application proper, which is what setting up our company on Sage Business Cloud, accounting software. So are there questions for me, right, before, we forge ahead on what we've talked about so far, accounting softwares and ERP systems. At the end of the day, you still be able to generate financial statements and other relevant reports, amongst the two. But know that ERP system is not just for bookkeeping or accounting alone, right? So it's also being used by different departments. Talk about fixed asset or asset management department. Talk about sales and marketing department. Talk about logistics department, fulfillment department, and all that. So HR and admin. So ERP systems also does payroll and HR, right? But accounting systems, would not do payroll and HR for you, right? Primarily. So are we good? Are there any questions? Okay, so there's a question from Emmanuel. So he's saying Sage is a general name for accounting software, right? Why are we having it as an ERP? Okay, so to answer that, Sage is a software company. That is one thing we need to, recognize. Sage is a software company that has different Sage, products. There are different Sage softwares out there, right? Some of them are within the range of an accounting software, and some of them are within the range of an ERP, right? So like we mentioned, if you see on my current screen, we have Sage S3, Sage 300, Sage 200 Evolution, right? These are examples of ERP systems within Sage. So, but we also still have Sage 50C, Sage Business Cloud Accounting, those falls within the category of accounting, software, right? So Sage is a software company, right, that has several Sage. So if someone tells you after that they are using Sage, to show that you have an understanding of how the Sage ecosystem works, the next question should be from you to that person is, what Sage software, or what specifically now, which of the Sage software or solutions are you using? So they will know that, yes, because Sage is just a software company. So they will now need to now be specific to say Sage S3, say 300. Oh, we use Sage Business Cloud, or they also call it Sage One. So Sage Business Cloud Accounting is also called Sage One. Just have that noted, right? So that is why we are having, Sage as accounting software, and also having it, fall within the ERP system. So I hope that answers your question, Emmanuel. All right. Yes, Henry. So Odoo could be classified as an ERP system, right? Simply because it has several modules. So that's one thing about ERP systems, right? So they have several modules. And when we want to, advise you, let's say as an organization, if we want to advise on a software to use, we'll look at your needs. We'll look at, okay, what departments are we looking at onboarding the software for? And which modules are you using? So most times, most organizations do not utilize all the modules that the software has to offer, right? Because all of these ERP systems are being priced, their licenses are being priced, by modules. For instance, if you need the invoicing module, there's an amount to pay. If you need the payroll and HR module, there's also an amount to pay. You understand? So it's an organization could choose to say, our HR and admin for now, we don't want to, adopt the software. Let's just do accounting, the account department, and maybe inventory for now. So it means they would only be paying for those two modules, right? So Odoo is an ERP solution because it has several modules, that an organization can easily adopt, right, to be able to achieve their required or relevant reporting. So I hope that answers your question, Henry. All right. So Maxwell, all right, we'll do a comment. So okay. So Maxwell asked the question that which of the Sage solution would we recommend for an NGO? So basically, right, the way needs analysis works, right? What makes us, consultants in this industry is that, you see, you could have, look at this scenario, you could have NGO A and NGO B, right? They are within the same, industry or sector, but their mode of reporting or the insights they would likely want to see, might differ, right? Yes, they would have some common things they want to say. They want to know what it is they are getting as grants, how they are being spent, based on project and all of those things. And maybe they want to budget for project or initiatives too, right? But they might want to see a couple of other insights. Take, for instance, some could have multi-level, project reporting, right? To say that, yes, we have a project maybe called Girl Child Initiative. It's an initiative, but under it, they could have several, projects, right? Or several sub-initiatives. So for such entity or for such NGO, there are a couple of software we could recommend because of that nature of reporting, because they have sub-levels, right, that they want to report for, right? Some might not want to go deeper, right? Some might want to go, deeper to say, we even want to monitor the projects we are handling by states, right? So all of these things. So we can't just say that this is the ideal solution, but we would always need to have a need analysis session to say, as an NGO, what are those key areas, right? For instance, some NGOs have different branches, like locations. They operate in Nigeria. They want Nigerians' report to be different from their NGO reports, in the United States, right? Let's say they are in Ghana, Nigeria, and United States. So some will tell you they want to be able to have a consolidated overview. Some would also tell you that they want to see, aside from consolidated, they want to see specifically how each region, right, or each country is performing. So if you want to generate that kind of report, we'll look at all of this software and we'll be able to recommend to say, this is the one that can do that for you, right? So that is why there is no one-way answer to that. So we need to know for the level of reporting, how you want your system to report before we would recommend. But generally, Sage Business Cloud Accounting is one of those software that is suitable for an NGO, right? So NGOs most likely would make use of accounting systems, right? Sage Business Cloud Accounting, Zo1 application, these are applications that can easily be used by NGO. But, the NGO does not necessarily need to use an ERP system at large like that, right? But an accounting system, would easily fit in, right, for an NGO. So some accounting systems that have approvals and the likes, like Zoho, would work well for an NGO. So Sage Business Cloud Accounting tool works well. But remember, it's still dependent on the nature of how the organization wants to report. So I hope that explanation, is detailed enough, right, Maxwell? So let me just take this final question from Henry, then we just forge ahead, right? So his question is, can Sage Business Accounting, does it have add-in for more analytics like Power BI, Tableau, yes, and SPSS? Absolutely, right? So Sage Business Cloud Accounting, right? Yes, it allows for integrations, with these reporting tools. Even Power BI as well, you can connect it to Sage Business Cloud Accounting to be able to build your dashboard or to run quite a number of analytics. Sage itself has, Sage Business Cloud intelligence tool also, that could easily be looked into, for you to be able to analyze your reports and the likes. So yeah, that's, would be on that. Okay, so let's now go into the software proper, right? Let's look at setting up our own company within Sage Business Cloud Accounting, right? So to do that, I would move swiftly into logging into my software, right, application. So now that will lead us to the question, which is, how do we access? Because that's the first thing. Remember, we sent a link on how to sign up, right, on Sage Business Cloud Accounting. So once you sign up, the other thing you want to look at is how do you log in? So let's say you've signed up, right? How do you log in to your application? Logging into your application is quite easy, right? All you need is an internet-enabled device. Why? Simply because it is a cloud solution, remember. So you need an internet-enabled device. For instance, your mobile phone or your computer system. Once there is an internet connection on it, then you are good to go. All you need to do is launch your browser, right? Be it Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, and the likes. When you launch your browser, create a new tab, right? And go to make it easy, right? You can just go to accounting.sage1.co.za. That would naturally bring you to this landing page where you need to enter your email address, right, and your password, that was being used to sign up, right, for the software. So you come to accounting.sage1, sage1, right, .co.za. So that is the URL for you to access your application at any point in time. And mind you, your login is quite unique. What you'll be seeing from your end, right, is unique to your own company data. What I'll be seeing from my end is unique to my own company data. That is why our login, would always differ, right? So when you come here, you will see the login screen, right? And on the login screen, you enter your email address that you used in signing up for the software, and you also enter your password. And when you do that and you click on login, right, then it brings you into the application itself. And simply because this is the first time we are logging in after signing up, then you should have a screen like this. So let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see my screen clearly, right? So it brings you here, right? Simply because it is the first time we are logging in. So all we just need to do here is to click on next, right? So it's my company details, all of these informations. I can easily come back to do them. So I can just click on next this here as well. So I can just do next. So simply because I want to, so here I can just, so we would come back and see how this, works. So just click on next. Then here, very important. So do you charge your customers VAT? Yeah, we want to say yes. So VAT number, financial year end. So very important. So for the purpose of our software, so our financial year end would be 31st 12 2025, for instance, right? And so our retention period should be 10 years, basically. Retention period. So I would explain all of these in a few while. So let's just do finish, right? So I would explain, what that, means, right? Okay. So just please just give me a moment. So this is if you want to install the Sage Business Cloud application on your mobile phone. So it has a mobile app application, right? That you can easily adopt. So, okay. So this is what Sage Business Cloud application technically look like. So we can come to the dashboard and so it has several modules. I'll just run us through what this individual module does. Then we'll proceed into the proper configuration, which is what I mentioned to you that I'll be explaining to us, in detail, right? So please just give me a few seconds. Let me, okay, Benjamin, you can see my screen. Please, is it just Benjamin? Can every other person see my screen? Please confirm if my screen, if you can see it before, we proceed further. Please, another person just confirm. So while I wait our responses, just give me, a minute. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Maxwell. Thank you, Godwin. Thank you, Toby and Joy. Yeah. All right. So just in a moment, please just spare me a minute, please. Okay. All right. Yes. I'm back. So yes, everyone, this is Sage Business Cloud Accounting Software, right? It is a cloud solution that is very, very easy to use and it is easily accessible, right? And like I mentioned, just from your mobile phone or from your computer system. So just go to accounting.sageon.co.za and you log in. So when you log in, then it brings you here. You can see it has a couple of dashboard and the likes. But let me just do a quick run through of what individual module, right, is able to do, right? So here we have the home module, which houses the dashboard, the general dashboard, and we have the customer dashboard, suppliers dashboard, items dashboard, and the financial, dashboard. So currently, all of these dashboard, are empty, right? Simply because we do not have data, in there yet, right? And once you have data, we'll see, how all of these, works, right? So the home, module houses the dashboard. So when you want to see, how the business is performing, right? Summary, it's summary or it's insight, basically. You get to see that under the dashboard. And once we have one or two financial data in here, right, we'll be able to see how the dashboard works. But the dashboard is just, the dashboard just shows you, a quick insight on how the business or how the organization, is performing, right? That is what the dashboard, does for you, right? So we have the quick view screen. So the quick view screen is also a subset of the dashboard, right? So on the quick view, you can easily see a much more detailed insights, right, on how, a customer, a supplier, or an inventory item is performing, right? Maybe you want to see the last few sales, right, with respect to our customer, specifically to a customer. So let me zoom out a little bit. All right. So specifically to a customer, you can see we can generate an overview on how a customer is performing, right? Invoices, we can see all transactions, we can generate a quick customer statement. That is being done from, let me zoom in back. So that is quickly being done from the quick view. So quick view helps you to see a detailed insight with respect to customers, suppliers, items, bank accounts, and also other ledger accounts. So a quick view is also a subset of what the dashboard looks like, right? So we have the customers module. So the customers module is responsible for any activities, that involves customers, right? Anything related to customers information, be it creation of customers, right? Or raising transactions with respect to customers, or generating reports with respect to customers. These can be done or found under the customers module, right? When it involves, so if you think of creating customers record, or modifying customers information, or any other thing relating to customers, is being done from the customers module. So we'll see how all of this works, right? Now, suppliers, supplier is just like the opposite, of your customers, right? We'll look at all of these things in depthly, right? I'm just giving a quick overview of what each module, does, so that when we go into software proper now, so we can easily relate, to all of these informations that will be passing across. So suppliers, any supplier or vendors, right, or any activities relating to suppliers or vendors, is being done from this module, be it creation of vendors or creation of suppliers category, or transactions. Likewise, report, is done from this screen. Items or inventory, as the case may be, right? Anything involving items, creation of items, right? Or also some transactions like inventory adjustments and all that is being done on the items, module, right? And we'll be looking at, in a much later time, we'll be looking at, when we see here inventory items, what does it mean, right? We have different kinds of inventory items, physical items, service items, bundles, item bundles, and the likes. So we look at what all of this entails in the business world and how it is out there in the practical sense, right? We'll look at all of these things in depthly, right? The banking screen, this is where you get to post banking related activities and also get to carry out bank reconciliation. So we'll see how bank reconciliation works. How do we do bank reconciliation, right? Sage-wise, and also other systems alike. We'll see how that works, right? It's an interesting part you wouldn't want to miss, trust me, right? Also, the accounts module. So the account module, this is where we get to, do what we call maintain ledger chart of accounts, right? Which happens to be the most important part of the accounting or ERP systems, right? The chart of account, which is the account module here, is the most important part, and we'll be breaking it down also as we proceed, right? We have the accountant area where other accounting related activities like journal entries, budgeting, and the likes, is being carried out, right? It is under this accountant area. And we have the report module, right? The report module, this is where all the reports are being embedded, right? We can generate individual reports from their modules, and we can also generate it under, the reports module itself. And lastly, the two other modules we have here are the company module. So the company module, this is where we get to do, activities relating, or we get to set up our defaults, right, company-wise, right? So when it comes to the main defaults, right, company-wise, we get to set it up under the, company module, right? And we have lastly the administration module. This is only available for the super admin, right? This is where we get to create users. We get to, create access rights, because when you create users, you need to be able to give them the rights. Oh, are they able to create customers? Are they able to post transactions? Are they able to generate reports, and the likes? We get to do that under the administration module. So that is just a quick overview, right? These here at the top are the modules, and each module has sub-components, which will be looking at, right? And we have the work area, where this area where we see the financial dashboard and the likes. So it means any activity we intend to carry out that must have been selected, from the modules here, we get to carry them out in this work area, right? Or we call it workspace, right? So that is just a quick overview, right? So let's now go into company setup. Let us set up our own company ourselves. And, to do that, we need to go to the company module, right? And here we have what we call change company settings. So that is the first thing when you are setting up on any software, right? On any software at all, you need to firstly set up information relating to the company proper, right? Company information as the address, the accounting period, the accounting year, stuff like that. You get to do that first, right? And as far as the business cloud accounting is concerned, we do that under change company settings. So I will go ahead, come to my company module, and I will click on change company settings. All right. So please, are we still together? Can we still hear me? Can you still see my screen? And if there are questions for me, please feel free to drop them before we proceed, right? Okay. So please confirm if you can hear me before I proceed with, these other details. All right. Okay. Thank you. That is well noted. Thank you, Anthony. Okay. Thank you, Maxwell. Thank you. All right. So now company details, because you see, most people, most accountants out there, it's not just about using an application or you just using a software, right? So you should remember or have it at the back of your mind that the first thing, right, is setting company's information. And as far as Sage Business Cloud is concerned, you see that the company's information is being segmented, right, into, we have company details to our left, we have general settings, we have VAT settings, we have document and statement, branding, and the likes. We have multi-currency. So for the purpose of this training, we'll be looking at those areas that are most important, right, and those areas that are peculiar to this training, right, in question, right? So first thing first, under the company details, component here, we have company details itself. And this is where we get to set up information relating to our company. So even if tomorrow as an organization, should you change your company name, right, you can easily come here to update this information to say, okay, company name, because the company name here is the name that would appear on your source documents and on your reports. So here you can see Droidedge Training Space. That is our own company name, or we call it Droidedge Training Limited, for instance, right? I will do that. And here, the telephone number, right, I get shown on our source document as well. You get to input that. If there are any other information, contact name, and the likes, and go ahead. So company information. So yes, I can use Okay. So this is where we get to set up, our company, information, right? So I will do that and I will proceed, I will click on save. I will click on save and I'll proceed into, the other segment, which is additional company information. So additional company information, this has to do with the TIN number. So I could just specify that, but it's not compulsory, right? So registered name, this is if your company, is registered. But in this case, registered name is also not compulsory, right? Registration number is also not, compulsory. But entity type, is it a sole proprietorship business? Is it a company? Is it a partnership? So I will just select, company. But it could be sole proprietorship. But those informations, is just for Sage, right? Sage just needs it for their own database, but it doesn't really affect your own report or anything, right? So city, Lagos, country, Nigeria, these are still general information, relating to the company. So next, customer zone. If I move to customer zone, yes, customer zone is just like customer portal, right? The system has a facility for customer portal where all your customers can have a portal, right? That they can log into to, what do you want them to be able to see? You want them to be able to see their invoices and also their account history, like statements, right? So we can enable this. As we proceed, we can see how this works, right? So we select invoice and account history, right? So that's fine. So online payments for now, as far as the training is concerned, we don't have to, set those up. So that's what we really need to set, under company details here, right? And mind you, you can always come back to modify any other information, right? So let's just move to general settings, right? We have accounting year, financial years. Yes. So it is very, very important, right? As an organization, right? Or as an accountant. Of course, we understand what financial year, is in this case. So, but for those of us that are non-accountants, or for those of us that are still fresh within the accounting sector, let me just explain a little bit, right? Because it's one of those things you get to take out of the training session. What do we mean by financial year? Or in this case, accounting period. So in some software, it's being called accounting year. In some softwares, it's being called accounting period. In some softwares, it's being called financial year, right? So what does it mean, right, basically? So what it simply means is that, as an organization or as an entity, every entity has its own, what we call reporting year. So for instance, when we are generating reports, income statements and the likes, we need to be able to say, oh, which of the financial year are we generating the report for, right? And a financial year basically is a 12-month period, right? When 12-month period, which in this case, some companies, right, the accounting year is from what? January to December, within a year. So it means if we are talking about 2025 financial year now, it simply means it's starting from January and it is ending in December, right? 2025. It must be a full 12-month calendar, period, right? But it differs across companies. Some companies, it starts in January and ends in December. But in some organization, it doesn't start in January. Rather, it might start in any other month in a year. It might start in February, right? But in some organizations, if it starts in February, it simply means it will end in January of the following year. Because remember, a financial year must consist of 12 months. So financial year is very, very important. Ascertaining your financial year is very, very important, right? And you need to know your start, and also your ending period. So if your financial year is starting in January, it simply means it will be ending in December. Some, it will start in February and it will end in January the following year. Some, it will start in March. It simply means if your financial year is starting in March, then it is ending in February of the following year, because you need to count and it must be 12 months, right, within a year, right? So that is very, very important for us to note, right? So it simply means if you are generating a report in a year now, it needs to be a stretch, right, of the 12 months. So when you hear anyone talk about accounting year or financial year, please have it at the back of your mind that it must be a 12-month calendar year, and don't just assume that it is January to December. It is important to ask. It is important you know, right? And so that is very, very, important to take note of, right? And if a business is just starting, you need to ascertain, you need to know your own financial year. For instance, for government, right, for public institutions, government institutions, it is January to December. But for private organizations, it varies. So the way it works is, if my accounting year is, let's say, starting in March, right? And if I want to report for 2025, for instance, it simply means my 2025 would start in March 2024 and it will end in February 2025. So when I'm generating my 2025 report, it simply means I'll be generating it as at, February 2025, because my new accounting year will be starting in March of that same year and it will be ending, in the February of the following year. I hope I'm clear. If I'm not clear, please drop questions. We are here to answer you. So that's the concept behind financial year. So you hear people talk about generating a report for a financial year or comparing two financial year together, right? So as far as Sage Business Cloud is concerned, it allows you indicate or specify your financial year. So in this case, my financial year is starting January, 1st, 2024. If I wanted to start in maybe March, like I had painted here, I would just say that my financial is starting in March. And if it's starting in March, it simply means it will end, in February, right, 2025. So I will just come here and specify that this would end, in February 2025. And automatically, right, my new accounting, my next accounting year would pick up from March 2025, right? And it will end also in February 2026. So the moment I try to create another accounting year or financial year, look at, if I click on add, automatically it will follow that pattern, right? Meaning it is starting in March and it is ending in February. But the thing is, it must, be 12 calendar months. And when I'm generating my reports, what my year end would always look like will be February, right, of any year. So if I'm generating my report for 2025, it means it will be as at 28th of February 2025, and so on and so forth, right? I hope financial year is clear, right? Please confirm you can still hear me, right? But for the purpose of our training, we want it to be January to December, right? January to December. So let me just take this back. So we want to have 2024 as our first year. And okay. So please confirm you can still hear me. And if there are any questions for me, please feel free to drop them, right? So, but that is the concept behind, accounting year or financial year. So let me eradicate that of 2026. We don't want to create it now, but we can choose to create it if we want to. All right. So are there questions for me before I move ahead? Okay. So, but that is on financial year. So let's move ahead. Rounding, we don't want to do anything on rounding. So regional settings, our currency symbol, it is important. Regional settings is important. That is where we get to set our reporting, our currency symbol, to be in Naira. So to be hen, and also our date format, right? So item quantity decimal place. We are not dealing with items that is will be quantified in maybe kg, where you have to do points. So our quantity decimal place is currently 0. Our value decimal place is 2, which is kobo, which is fine, right? So then the next thing will be customer and supplier settings. So these ones are really, really fine. Item settings. So do not allow item quantities below 0. Absolutely. Yeah, one when item cost is 0 is good to enable that. So one when items quantity fall below. Okay, so do not allow negative quantity. So that is very, very important, right, to be selected, right? And yeah, that's fine. Item settings. So in item settings, it is important to ensure that you do not allow your quantity to fall below 0, because you don't want to sell what you don't have, basically, right? So any other settings here, personal information, retention period. I said I wanted to explain that. So retention period basically is just saying that Sage would like to know, they just need it for internal purpose, right? Now, there are some softwares out there that has limited financial year reporting, where some softwares you cannot have more than 2 accounting year, like Sage 50, the usual Sage 50 US or Peachtree that most people are used to, right, has a limitation of 2 financial year. But Sage Business Cloud, one of the benefits of Sage Business Cloud and why people are going for it is that it has unlimited financial, so I can keep creating. So it simply means I can be in 2037 and I will be able to generate my report of 2025, right? Because it allows for unlimited, financial year. Do you understand? Unlimited, financial year. So you can see we have a financial year up until 2030 and I can still create more, right? But I can just, delete, should I want to. Now, if I come to personal settings here, Sage is asking that how many years data, like Nigerian wise, do you want to so we want to select 10 years. It's not that Sage will delete your data, no, but it's just that they need that information internally for them, right? And reason for retention period is that statutorily we just want it that you can indicate any reason, but I just prefer using statutory, because even in Nigeria here, I think our retention period basically is it 5 years or so that government could request for your report basically as far as 5 years. So it means you do not need to purge your data. You need to keep your accounting information at least for 5 years basically, right? So, but we just like to select 10 years retention period, and that's under personal settings. I promised to explain that earlier, right? So VAT settings, right? VAT settings. So for VAT here, would okay. Do we have any other questions here before we proceed? Okay, I hope you all can still hear me clearly. Okay. So please just confirm if you can still hear me clearly before I proceed. Right. And if you can still hear see my screen clearly, right? Okay. All right. So the other area we want to look at basically is branding, because as an organization, we need to impute our logo, right? We need to impute our logo so that our source document would have our logo, in them, right? As we proceed. So that is being done under branding, right? So I can come here to select, our logo, and let me just, find something here. Just a moment. So let me select this as our logo, right? So we select the logo, we choose the file, and you upload it. And yes, position of the logo, you can say we want it to show on the left-hand side of our source document, right? And I can choose to preview what it will look like. So I will change my logo basically, but because of time, I just uploaded, say, 200 Evolution as a logo, right? But that can be specific to your own taste. So the whole idea is that we want to be dynamic in our configuration, right? So you just come here under branding to upload your logo. And Yes, so that's basically what we, want to set up under our company settings, right? Remember, we mentioned that the company settings, this is where we get to set up default information, right? So if you have a spare device, you can just, proceed to also configure as we are going. But if you do not have a spare device, of course, we'll go on a break later in the day. And also maybe after today's class, you can take your time because we will share today's video too with you at the end of today, so you can take your time, carry out some exercise and all that even before tomorrow, right? So what we've done under company settings is we've configured information related to our company or our business, as it relates to the training, right? As it relates to the training, right? So we enter that information here. Other informations we entered here basically is information relating to the city and also the country, right? Additionally, we also entered information, relating to financial year. I explain how this works and how we can set it up, right? So I also, talked about rounding a little bit. So we came to regional settings to set our currency symbol and our, decimal place. Then we came to item settings to confirm that we do not allow selling items below 0, right? And so we'll look at VAT settings too. Then we came to branding, to upload our company logo. And once we are done, we'll click on save and close, right? We'll click on save and close. Okay. All right. Okay. So please confirm we are together. Okay. Before I proceed. Yes, we'll share the recording. Yeah, we'll share the recording, please. But it's still important, you pay attention here so that if you have any jamming questions, before we move from those places, because there are some things we'll be mentioning here that are very, very vital, right? That are in relation to how, activities or business as it relates to accounting software, how it works, generally. We are done with the company related setup. Now we want to move to the most important parts, right, of any accounting or ERP systems, right? The most important part. And I want you to be very, very attentive, please. I want you to pay much attention, right? Like I mentioned, we want to move to the most important parts. And I've seen instances where accountants, even chartered accountants, as the case may be, fail this part, right, or this side of things, right, when it comes to interviews or talking about software, because this side or this part that we are diving into now is what separates, or is one of those things that separates, who a digital accountant, right, and those accountants that haven't heard of accounting software before, or that haven't, even worked on any accounting software before, right? That is the area we are diving into now, right? And it is called the General Ledger Chart of Accounts, right? It's part of those things that we'll be setting up, right? If we go to, our, class exercise, So one of those things we would have here is that we want to create some master files. But let me run us through what we are looking at here, the case study here. So the case study we are looking at here is for a company called Bill Gates Nigeria Limited, right? These are demo data, that we've came up with as it relates to the training, right? So this business is in food, seafood business, and icing of fishes, right? from the customers and prospects, and also they do render other services, right? So that's the case study, right? And there are a couple of things we are looking at doing. We'll be creating chart of accounts. We'll be creating, a couple of other relevant information, right? But before you adopt any accounting solution, or one of those things you need to do as far as accounting solution is concerned, or ERP system, is primarily you set up, company relevant information like we've done. And the second thing is to set up what we call the charts of accounts, which is the most important part, right, of an accounting system. So I will run us through this short slide vis-a-vis the software itself. Before coming here to create, a chart of accounts, what do we understand when we hear someone talk about a chart of accounts? What do we understand by that, right? So I will run us through that seamlessly right now. And because at the end of the session, even if it is this that you're able to take out, I'm just saying, even if it is this, trust me, it's something, or it's one knowledge that you would always refer to, right? You would always make use of, for, the entirety of one's career within the accounting sector. Okay, so we'll go into that right about now, right? And it is called general ledger, right? Or in most cases, general ledger chart of accounts. And mind you, all accounting and ERP systems, has this feature, right? Or we say as this module, as the case may be, right? So let's get, right into it. But while I do that, please just spare me a few seconds, please. Right? Just spare me a few seconds, say 30 seconds, please. I'll be with you. So please, let's get ourselves prepared, right, for this side of the training. Right? One moment, please. Thank you. Okay, so I'm back, right? So please confirm you can still hear me and confirm you can see my screen, right? Because we are getting into the deeper parts, of the training. And this is one of the most interesting parts, right? As the case, may be, right? So please just drop chat and yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Sunday. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Okay. So when we hear anyone talk about general ledger, right, what does it mean? And from my screen, you can see that, we've mentioned that the general ledger is mostly referred to as the art of the accounting software. You can tell that when there's no heart, an individual cannot breathe. So the individual is as good as, dead. One can have a bad kidney and all that, but art, is the most important part, right? So that is why general ledger is also being referred as the art of the accounting software, or ERP systems, right? And why? This is because its configuration determines how the reporting of an entity is being structured, statutorily and management-wise. Very, very important. We need to underline that part. It says this is because its configuration, which means the way it's been configured or designed, determines how the reporting of an entity, will be structured. When we say an entity, it means how the reporting of a business, of an enterprise, of an NGO, of a school, right, as the case may be, will be structured. statutorily or management-wise, right? Now, when we say statutory or management-wise, so you might be wondering, why did we have them separated? Okay, we have them separated because, of course, when you are designing your accounting software, when you are configuring it, there are some things, that you can define to say that, yes, for instance, when you want to file for your tax, maybe company income tax at the end of the year, what the tax authorities are interested in is they just want to see your revenue line and the set of expenses that was being incurred and all that, direct cost, all of those things like that. And of course, your net profit and the likes, your net, income and the likes. But that is the kind of report you present statutorily. But aside that, management-wise, we can design some mechanism or some reporting tool or some analysis tool internally to say that as the management, you might be keen to say that you want to see, maybe you want to track your report, maybe by branch or by department or by cost center, by all of these things. For instance, the tax authority is not concerned about for our vehicle repair and maintenance as a business. Those that are in sales and marketing, they spend 10,000 naira, within this year. Those that are in accounts department, they spend 20,000 naira. Those kind of reports is meant for management, right? So it's not meant for statutory. Do you understand? So that is why we mentioned that for your statutory reports, that will just be basically, summaries and the likes. The way you design your chart of accounts, would determine the way your reporting would be at the end of the day, right? Meaning it is the foundation. If your foundation is not right, then your reporting or your building would not be right. That is the main thing, right? But we'll still go into the chart of account, right? So we now proceed for, we said, however, there are several components, that a general ledger caters for. One of those things is the chart of account, the budget, and of course the cash book. But the chart of account that we mentioned, what is the chart of account and what does it look like? Now, within the general ledger, right, we have the chart of account. Now, the chart of account is a listing, right, of the names of the accounts, or we can call it ledgers, right, that a company has identified and made available for recording transactions in its general ledger, right? So it says a company has the flexibility to tailor its chart of account to best suit its needs, including adding accounts, as needed. Okay, and look at this second paragraph. It says the chart of account should give anyone who is looking at it a rough idea of the nature, right? A rough idea of the nature of your business, right? By listing all the accounts involved in your company's day-to-day operation. So what do we mean? This whole grammar that we've indicated here, what does it imply? It's simple. It says a chart of accounts is a listing of the names of accounts that the company has identified and made available for recording day-to-day activities. Now, you see, as a business, the things you embark on day to day, the expenses you incur, the inflow you are getting, right? The sales you are making, all of these things, comprise or they account for your day-to-day activities, right? But these day-to-day activities need to translate into a kind of reporting for you. Now, all these day-to-day activities, I need to have something called my chart of account, my list of ledger accounts, where, if I buy fuel of 5,000 naira, I need to go to my accounting software to be able to post it or to record it to say that fuel was bought for 5,000 naira, right? So it means all my activities, all my day-to-day activities that I'm able to identify as a business, I need to have made provision for it as a ledger account, as a ledger account, so that at the end of the day, I can generate reports for it. So now, as an organization, we need to sit down, right, as an entity to say that what are those day-to-day things that we do, and we will group them, right? Income, those that are income. Okay, as an organization, right, we've identified that we want to be selling fish, right, and want to provide services with respect to icing or fish storage, right? So we need to be say that, okay, our income will be coming from sales of fish, right? Our income will be coming from icing or storage services, right? Take for instance, if we are into manufacturing company, our income will be coming from sales of finished goods. Our expenses will be coming, or cost of sales will be coming from, materials being purchased, packaging items being purchased, and the likes. If we are in what was it called? Aviation sector, right? Maybe we are into commercial airline and all that. Our revenue in this case will be coming from sales of airline tickets, right? Our revenue will be coming from charter, transporting, charter, right? Our revenue will be coming like that. And our costs, right, will be that maybe repair and maintenance of aircraft, fueling of aircraft, all of those things like that, salaries and wages for pilots and crew members, and the likes. Now, that was why we mentioned that in this next paragraph to say that when you look at the chart of account of an entity, right, you should be able to tell that, okay, this is the sector, this is the industry that this entity, belongs to. I don't know if you get it. So, for instance, if an accountant or if you are being asked to draw up a chart of accounts, if you look at it, you'll be able to say that, this entity, is in the aviation sector, right? You are seeing their income as sales of airline ticket or flight tickets, right? You are seeing their cost, or you are seeing repair of aircraft, maintenance of so, right? If it's a construction company, right, you'll be seeing things like maybe revenue from contracts, right? Revenue from road construction, revenue from residential constructions and the likes, right? And expenses and the like, that stuff you'll be seeing purchase of materials, construction materials. When you look at it, you say, this firm is in a construction company. And when you are looking at the chart of account of a company, you are seeing raw materials, work in progress, finished product, packaging materials. You are seeing wages and salaries of factory workers. You know that it is a manufacturing firm. So all of this is made possible from the chart of account itself, right? And we have examples here. So for instance, you see a chart of accounts, basically you can see basically different income or revenue lines or different expenses lines. It gives you an idea, right? So, and a chart of accounts, one thing is peculiar. You will see a chart of accounts, they would have ledger codes, they would have, ledger description, and they will have what we call GL category, right? Now, there are different kinds of, chart of accounts is classified into two types or two natures basically. It's either it is income statement in nature or it is balance sheet in nature. For those of us that are non-accountants, let's also pay attention, right? There's something to gain here. So now all of the chart of account I have mentioned is, okay, company detailing to say that we have, what's it called? So a company, right, is having their income lines. So one moment. So let's say a company here is having their revenue items. Okay, let's do it like this, right? Okay. Just a moment. Just a moment, please. Okay. Okay, so just to be sure we can still hear okay, please confirm if you can still hear me and if you can still see my screen, right? All right, so the chart of account, the ledger account is of two nature. right? It's either it is income statement or it is balance sheet, right? And so what are the difference? What does it mean to have income statement? What does it mean to have a balance sheet account? So basically, income statement ledgers, those are the ledgers that only appears on your income statement report. For instance, if you are creating a ledger, right, you should ask yourself, will this ledger be part of those ledgers that would account for my profit or loss for the year? Right? So if such, right, is part, then the ledger, such ledger is being called an income statement ledger. Then it also means that balances in those kind of ledger would not roll over to another accounting year. Very, very important, very, very key, right? So when you have a ledger account, any ledger account that you can see on your statement of profit or loss or your income statement, right? Know that such ledger is not expected to have a balance. That balance will not roll over into a new accounting year end. So if we are generating a report as at December 2024, for instance, and we are seeing that, we've incurred 50,000 as transportation expense for the year. When we are moving to January 2025, right, the opening balance in that ledger will be zero, because that ledger is only responsible to account for just 1 year. However, balance sheet account is the otherwise, right? It's the other way to it. So balance sheet account shows is a set of ledger account that appears on the statement of financial position, right? And balances in those ledgers would surely roll over to another period, right? Now, an example of these two income statements now is your income, all your income ledgers, sales of airline tickets, so and so, expenses, all your normal expenses, they are income statement accounts. But balance sheet account includes, for instance, customers that are owing you receivables. We would not say because we are now in 2025, customers that are owing us in 2024, we would, forget them or we would eradicate them. No. So they will surely roll over, so that when we are generating our report for 2025, we will still see that those customers are owing us. Vendors we are owing, we will still see that we are owing them, right? Those are balance sheet accounts. Cash and bank balances that we have in our bank will surely roll over to a new, reporting period or accounting period, right? Like that. So assets, liabilities, equities, these are balance sheet accounts that would roll over into a new accounting year. It is important we separate them, right? Like this, right? And simply because if we come to this screen where we get to highlight the different kinds of chart of account that we have, right? Because we'll look at drawing up our own chart of account. We'll draw up a chart of account together now, right? But just see what the example looks like. Look at that type, right? You see that balance sheet account, for example, all the accounts, all the assets and liabilities are those that are under balance sheet, right? And income statement are just revenue, other income, cost of sales, and expenses, right? But let me go back a little bit. Now, this screen here talks about features of a ledger account. In a ledger account, we would have what we call code. When you are drawing up a chart of account, you should have what we call codes, right? And this refers to unique numeric codes. And in some cases, they are alphanumeric, right? They are assigned to individual ledger accounts, right? So as to make it unique to other ledgers, right? So take, for instance, I'm having 10,000, right, for my motor vehicle cost. So when you want to have a ledger account, when you create a ledger, maybe sales of airline tickets, you need to have a code for it, right? And the code needs to be uniform. So in some cases, some organizations adopt 5-digit codes. Some adopt 4-digit codes. Some adopt 3-digit codes, and it can go higher and higher and higher, right? And for each ledger, aside from we identifying codes, we also has ledger description. Meaning when we are creating a ledger, we need to give it a code, and we also need to give it a description. So in this case, 10,000, right, is the ledger code. But motor vehicle at cost is the ledger description. But these two are not enough. We now have another important thing called account or ledger category. So it refers to the account category the ledger account belongs to. For instance, this ledger you are trying to create, right? Is it a revenue to you, which in this case, income? Is it an expenses that you are trying to create? Is it a liability? Is it an asset? Is it a bank ledger, as the case may be? It goes on and on like that. These are what, comprise what makes up a ledger account. So when anyone asks you what a ledger account is, so a ledger account is an account, that is being created, to accommodate the day-to-day reporting or postings, right, of any organization's activities. It could be in form of income. It could be in form of expenses, right? It could be in form of maybe someone owing you and all that, right? It could be in form of inventory reporting. As the case may be, always know that should you have, any major activity that your organization deals with or your business, you need to create it. Example, now we have NGO. An NGO's chart of accounts will differ from, that of a school. Oh, sorry. Will be different from that of a school, right? A school's chart of accounts will be different from that of a construction company, right? Because the day-to-day activities of a school, differs, right? So if I want to create a chart of account for a school, I will create a record, for instance, to say maybe I want to create maybe a revenue income line now. One of the income lines for a school will be, I can say my income line for my chart of account is having a code, is starting with a code of 40,000, right? So if I say 40000 like this, just a moment. So for a school now, I could say my income is starting with 40,000, 5 digits. So I could say 40,000, is income, right? And I could now say 40,001, right, has to do with tuition fee, right? Sorry, tuition fee, right? I could say 40,002 has to do with medical income, that students would always pay for. And I could say 4,003 is for maybe boarding fee, right? And I could have my cost to start with 5,000. I could say 5,001 is maybe teachers' salaries. Teachers' salaries. Apologies for my typo. I'm just trying to ensure we understand. So I could say 5,002. This is we creating a chart of account. So we could say maybe, markers and the likes, expense, writing material expense. I'm just and so on and so forth. It will be different. That's of a school. It will be different from we drawing up a chart of account. Let's say income also is 40,000, right? And for an NGO, 40,001, we could call it grants, right? 40,002. We could say maybe this one is a special donation, that is being gotten like that, right? So, and also expenses, right? So you need to make provision for all of these guys so that when you are reporting, when you are generating reports as a school now, we can see how much we are getting as tuition. It will be shown. We can see how much we are getting as medical income from students. It will be shown. How much have we gotten, as a burden fee, right? Within a month, it will be shown. Why? Because we've made provision for them on our chart of accounts. If we did not create all of these things like this, it will be difficult for us to differentiate how much we got from burden, right? Compared to medical. Let's say we just have one ledger as income. We are backing everything into this, right? Then it will be difficult to get what we got from, all other revenue lines. But if you've broken it down like this, then by virtue of postings, it is very, very easy for you to generate your report, all the incomes, right? And also to generate it at individual level, right? Same thing with respect to expenses. If you do not separate maybe repair and maintenance of maybe computer systems and repair and maintenance for motor vehicles or something like that, it will be difficult for you to identify them. So a chart of account is very, very important. That is why we said it determines how an entity reports. An entity that just creates income, will be different from an entity that creates, that's indicated all the revenue lines. The benefit of doing this like this is we can know that okay, we are making more money from A than we are making from B. You understand? Like, and so on and so forth. For us as an organization now, we have a revenue line for, implementation of software, right? We have a revenue line for what? For training, right? We have a revenue line for maybe retainerships and support. So at the end of the day, we can know, oh, we are making, more progress in implementation. Oh, it's training that is making more progress, or it's support. So that is why it is the most important part of the software. Then the last thing is, now we want to look at on chart of account is, how do we, just look at what a typical chart of account looks like, a summary. So you can see the GL code, you can see the description, and you can see the account category. And one thing you'll notice here is uniformity, that this GL code they all have 5 character digits, right? Because that is what I choose. It doesn't mean that this is the same way it is all in all other organizations. So it is based on what you want. Yours can be 6 digits, yours can be 7 digits, but I'm using 5 digits. And you can see that firstly, you need to separate balance sheets compared to income, right? So my income is starting from 4,000 to 99,999, right? While my balance sheet account is starting from, 10,000 up until 3,000. So I'm saying here that motor vehicle PPE at cost is starting with 10,000. Account deep is starting with this code. Receivables, any receivable ledger is starting with 12,000. Bank related ledger is starting with 13,000. So I have GT Bank 30,000. I have petty cash 13,010. So it means if I want to have maybe Zenith Bank as a bank, I need to come and consider the last code here. And here you can see that my coding is in multiples of 10 in my own example here, right? So it means if I want to create a ledger for maybe Zenith Bank, then it will be 13,020. If I want to create another one, maybe for Polaris Bank, it will be 13,030, simply because it's a multiples of 10, right? So likewise, my revenue here, if I want to create another revenue line, it will be 40,010, 40,020 for all my revenue lines, right? And it goes like that. So this is a typical example that you can adopt. And we've given here a clue or tips on how to create ledger chart of account. And one of the tips is that, firstly, you should divide your account into 2 types, balance sheet and income statement, like we did here, right? Now, you should establish several ledger categories that you could have: assets, revenue, expenses, equity, like we did here, right? Now, you need to now have a specific GL code range for your category, for you to say, oh, for my revenue, it should start from 40,000 to this, and it's not static. You can be dynamic about it, right? So then you need to now spread the assigned codes to the respective inventory GL ledger, right? And ensure that the GL ledger code, are unique. So if I'm saying my revenue line items are starting with 40,000, it simply means all my other revenue lines should start with 40,000. You understand? It makes it easy when it comes to reporting. The system will help you harmonize. And this is applicable in all accounting softwares, on Odoo, on QuickBooks, on all Sage applications, on all Zoho applications, right? So when you take your time to understand how this ledger chart of accounts works, right, then I can tell you that to a large extent, you've been able to establish how, a very solid foundation, right, on how a accounting software works. So I hope I am clear. I hope we have, questions. I expect that there will be so many questions for me. Please feel free to drop them, right? Drop questions with respect to the chart of account. We will share this, with you as well, right? So the chart of account, remember, is the most important part of the accounting software, right? And the chart of account is a listing of the ledger accounts that an organization has identified and made available for recording their day-to-day activities. You understand? Day-to-day activities, be it inventory, be it fixed asset, you understand? Be it HR and admin, they would have all identified their chart of accounts. You understand? But this activity solely rests on the accounts department. Probably it would have been drawn up by the CFO or the finance manager or the chief accountant of a firm, right? So that is what the chart of account, is. And the way your chart of account is being structured determines how your reporting, would look like. So please confirm if you can still see my screen, and please let me know if there are any questions with respect to, what I have just run us through, right? So blessings, if you have questions, please drop it. If there are chats, please drop it for us. Okay. So Emmanuel asked that what is the maximum digits you can have on Sage Business Cloud Accounting? Okay, that's a wonderful question, right? So I'm about getting there, actually. I'm about getting there. So once we get to that part, of creating ledger account, because we'll be creating ledger accounts, right? As far as this exercise is concerned, right? But we'll get that. I will explain the nomenclature without behind the codes of Sage Business Cloud Accounting to you. So are there any other questions before I proceed into creating, ledger account on Sage Business Cloud Accounting? It is important we understand that part, before we forge ahead. All right. So are there any other questions for me before we now move to our class exercise, the first, major activity of the day from the class exercise, which is we creating this list of general ledger accounts, right, on the application. Okay. So I want to believe there are no other questions for me, and I want to believe I'm still very much audible, right? And you can still see my screen clearly. Okay. So let's make reference to our class exercise, like it was shared with us, or I can share it as well here, so that okay. So yeah, I think my colleagues could also share the documents so that just in case for some of us that might not, have access. Okay, so Godwin has a question that is it not better to follow the categorization in the chart of accounts? I do not seem to get the question. So the categorization, basically, normally all accounting softwares, right, as default categorizations, basically. I mean, it's just in relation to the International Financial Reporting Standard, IFRS, right? So for each, you would have revenue lines, you would have expense lines, and the likes, like that, right? So these primary categorizations, you would have it, fixed asset, which is non-current asset, receivable, cash and cash equivalent, which is bank or cash, so they are primary like this. So yes, at the end of the day, it will still be in relation with the software. The only thing is just that that I identify it to be non-current assets. In some softwares, it could be called fixed assets. It's still the same thing. Some softwares will call this revenue for you income. You understand? It's still the same nomenclature. Do you understand? So whichever ways, it still works, right? So I think that answers that question. All right. So Maxwell asked the question saying, what are the implications of using a centralized and decentralized, chart of accounts? Okay. Yeah. So it depends, right? So that is why there is no one way thing, right? When it comes to all of this, or software configuration for a firm. One key thing that differs across organizations is the way they report, their uniqueness in reporting. So some organizations, if your needs in terms of reporting, if it is a decentralized chart of accounts that works, or decentralized database that would work for you, of course, that is what the consultant will look at deploying. And if it is a centralized, of course. So one thing about centralized chart of accounts is just that it makes consolidation easy, right? So across all entities, all branches of all departments of the firm, so it makes consolidating it, the report, easy at that level, right? But it's your reporting needs that will determine whether you will go ahead with decentralized or centralize the chart of account. But they all have their pros, and cons, right, Maxwell? All right, so let us create some ledger accounts. Now, one thing you would realize here is this, that unlike so many other accounting softwares, Sage Business Cloud, at least for now, right, does not allows for ledger account codes. Have it as a note, right? Unlike so many other accounting softwares, right, like QuickBooks Online, like QuickBooks Online, naturally and primarily, it does not, have that. It does not. You have to go and enable that feature, right, for you to be able to have ledger account codes for QuickBooks Online. Likewise for ZoBooks, right? So, but those softwares have that facility. But Sage Business Cloud Accounting only works with account name and account type. That is why you see that from our exercise here, we did not include codes, right? Have it at the back of your mind. But so many other applications out there has provision for codes, for ledger account codes. But Sage Business Cloud Accounting does not have, codes. But it does not limit it in terms of functionality. Do you understand? So the way it still works is still the same way other chart of account works in other systems. It's just that there are no codes. But I need you, or we need us to understand the concept of coding, because that is one of the most important parts. You could be called upon to chart an account. You could be asked in an interview to draw up a chart of account for a company in so sector. You understand? It's just that it's very simple. The code, all you need is just to follow these tips. You could please place it as a form of assignment for yourself. Draw up a chart of account, a proper chart of account for a construction firm, right? And do another one, right, for a school, right? Compare it and look at it to say that if I'm being called upon to just look at it, to look at this, am I able to easily ascertain? So that's, we just need to understand, right, how a chart of accounts is being drawn. But as far as Sage Business Cloud Accounting, is concerned, right, it does not have, code. So let's get right into it, because our time is fast spent, right? We are training, basically, we always try as much as possible to explain in detail, right? Because for us, it's not just about the amount that is being paid. Rather, it is about the knowledge, that, you are taking along, right? And that's one of those things we pride ourselves in, right? As Droidedge Consulting, right? So let's just get right into it. To create general ledger account, remember, I would go to my, software. I mentioned that the account module is responsible for ledger creations, right? And yeah, mind you, you would see we have lists under almost all these modules. You know, three things are peculiar: list, transactions, and reports are peculiar across all the modules. Let me just give you an insight of what this entails so that it makes navigation easy for you. Anytime you go to any module and you are looking at creating a new record, a new master record, or modifying a master record, you should consider going to lists. You know, list happens to be that section of the screen where you create a new master record. When we say master record, we mean inventory item, customers, suppliers, ledger chart of accounts, or banks, right? But the transaction part is where you carry out transactions related activities with respect to the modules, right? So should I want to post any transactions related to suppliers, I will go to my suppliers module and I will go to transactions. Then I can select each of the screen that I want to, you know, practice or carry out. Then I have reports. Of course, that is where we go to generate reports. But note, we are only able to raise transactions on records we've created before, right? And we are able to generate reports on transactions that must have been captured. So it's a chain, right? It's coming from lists to transactions and to reports. And that is how all application works, right? For you to be able to do transactions, to carry out transactions on a record, it means you must have created it before. If it is a vendor, let's say you have Aziz Nigeria Limited as a vendor. Should you want to create maybe vendor's invoice or payment or anything, the first thing you need to do is to go and create Aziz as a vendor first. You only need to create Aziz as a vendor one time. So that is why list is important, right? Then when you are done creating a record, then you can now go ahead to do transactions. And remember, software is all a matter of garbage in, garbage out. Meaning it is the transactions you've been able to post that you'll be able to generate reports on. Do you understand? So if you do not post any transactions, you cannot generate reports. So just have it at the back of your mind, right? So to create an account, I would come to accounts, I will come to list, and I will come to list of accounts, right? You see, we have two kinds of accounts, right? List and we have, so I will just come to list of accounts. So here we would see there are a couple of ledger accounts that has been created before. They had been created, right, by the software automatically. We call them follow-come accounts, or in some cases you call some system account. As you can see, systems accounts, you cannot delete them, right? You cannot alter them, right? But all these follow-come accounts, you can delete them, you can edit them and all that, right? And those ones are the ones colored in, highlighted in blue or written in blue. But those ones that are purely black, they are system accounts, meaning they are there by default. You cannot delete them. There is nothing you can do to them, right? So here, I have a list of 25, item records, general ledger records already, right? So what we want to do is we want to create a new ledger account, right? So to create a new ledger account, we just need to come here, to come to add an account. And you see that there are three different kinds of accounts that we could add when it comes to Sage Business Cloud. We have the normal, usual ledger accounts like expenses, assets, and the like. And we have item accounts like accounts that we can, like revenue accounts, right? Or cost of sales account that we could link inventory items to. We'll see how this works. And we also have bank accounts, right, that we can create. So if you want to create a new bank or petty cash, then we select bank or credit card. If you want to create a ledger account that is responsible for item sales, you understand? Like when we sell items, we want it to report into a ledger. Naturally, we select this second one. But if it is a normal account, like assets, liabilities, all of those things like that, and expenses, asset, liabilities, equity, and expenses, then you select accounts. So now we are clicking on add an account because we want to create these ledger accounts, both expenses, security, and all of this. So when I click on add account, this is what the screen looks like. Unlike some other software that would indicate code. So this is just showing us account name and account category, right? So for account name, I will just do a copy and paste. Copy this, right? Borrow expense. Come here, paste it on my software, and I can type it too. I just copy and paste it to make it easy, right? So then category, very, very important. See, very, very important, because borrow expense, remember, I need to go and select expenses. It is important because the account category determines how it reports. Because borrow expenses, imagine if I had selected this as revenue account, for instance, it means expenses that if I should capture expenses in this ledger, they'll be reporting as revenue. And that would mean that my report would not be good. You understand? An account that ought to report as an expense will now be showing as income. It ought not to be like that. So please pay attention when you are creating a ledger account. Always ensure that your category is rightly selected, because I've seen instances like that when accountants would reach out to us. They say, my report is not doing fine. My report is not reporting well. And when we look at it, we see that at the point of them creating, the ledger account, they did not create it properly. So we would create it here, select the right category. And if you do not know, you see each category, there is a short note on what each category entails for those of us that do not have accounting background. So you can just read up, say expenses is saying cost incurred, like advertising, rent, stationaries, and so on. So it means borrowed expenses is a cost we are incurring. It falls under that category. And if you are not so sure, you can click on this link to say which category, should I select. And here they've done so well to, I indicate what each category, entails. And you can even Google it or reach out to anyone with an accounting background and they would explain properly to you, right? That is all we need to do here, to just set the account name and the account category, right? And if we have any further description that we want to indicate for internal purpose, maybe I want to say that this is created, right, to cater for borrow expenses, right? Expenses in the cold room, right? Because remember, we are into fishing business, right? So, but this description here is not compulsory. But the description is just like notes that you indicate so that if other users of the system, gain access, they can know that, oh, this is what the ledger is created for. They can know what is to be posted in there, right? So that is how you create a ledger account. So I can click on save, or I can click on save and new. So save simply means I want to save it and go back to the list of chart of accounts. And save and new simply means I'm creating that, right? And I want the system to show me a new screen where I create a new, ledger account. So security of stations expenses, I would also create that. And that's also expenses. So to make it easier and faster, I'll just do expenses, and that's all. I will do save and new. I'm creating that as well. Electricity expense, I will come here, create that as well, right? So that is how you create that also in your own space, right? So it's just to do a copy and paste. I'm just doing copy and paste to make it faster for my end. Expenses, right? Save and new. So maintenance and general repairs also expenses, right? I will come here and I will do save and new. So all those records, I'm creating it as ledger account. So it means anytime I'm incurring any expenses on borrow, I will post it into this ledger. Do you understand? Anytime I'm incurring any expenses on security, right, I will post it into this ledger. That is why we mentioned that a ledger or a chart of account is a list of ledger accounts that would help you to accommodate postings or activities, day-to-day activities incurred by the organization, right? So now the next one is plant and property at cost, right? That is an asset, as you can see, PPE. So I'll just paste this here, and I'll come here. It falls under which category? In this case, non-current assets. Non-current assets. It's still the same thing as PPE, property, plant, and equipment. You understand? Those that have accounting background would understand this part, right? So non-current asset, I'll just come here, do save and new again. Another for accumulated depreciation for plant and machinery. I'll do that again. So non-current assets, save and new. You will see at the end of the day, you see all the ledger accounts that we have been able to create. Leasehold property, costs, right? Sorry. Leasehold property and costs. Pay that too. We'll soon go for a short break, right? Non-current asset too. Okay. So we'll soon be done. Accumulated depreciation for leasehold property. Please, just to be sure, if you have questions for me, drop them. And please let me know if you can still hear me or if you're having any issues seeing my screen. So short-term loan is other current liability. So let's look up here. So other current liability, that is a current liability. So we'll do that. Save and new. Prepaid rents, right? That's on current assets. Select that. I will also do save and new. So bank, yes. Now remember, if we are just created, if we just go ahead, you see that if you just come here and we just want to create bank, we won't have access to do that. So that is why we have to go back, right? One step, list of chart of accounts. And to create an account, you see, unlike the way we've created others here, unlike the way we've created others, you see borrow expense here. Borrow expenses, we've created it. This was the note I was trying to add. So for banks, we'll come here, then we'll create add bank or credit card. It is important we do that. Add bank or credit card. So bank account name. So GTB PLC. So GTB Bank. Can just say GTB Bank or GT Bank. Right? So category, well, you don't really have much category per se. So branch name, no branch name. So GT Bank PLC. So for this one, we can do save and new. And Zenith also. So bank name Zenith PLC. Do save and new. Sterling Bank. Pay that as well. So the same thing as bank name. We'll do save and new. Right. Then we'll do cash in hand. So cash in hand. All right. So it means if there's any bank, it means in the next future, if the company should open any new bank account, you need to create a ledger account for it the same way, right? By going into either account, list of accounts here, then you can add a bank or credit card. The same way, you can also just come here to the banking module too. You can do it like that, as it affects said business cloud accounting. But always have it at the back of your mind that when you have a bank account or a new bank basically being opened, there is need to create a new ledger account for it on your chart of accounts, right? So very, very important, right? So I hope that is clear. So with that, we've been able to create, this ledger accounts, right? We've been able to look at the chart of accounts. We've been able to look at ledger account creation in the system, right? And that solves that part of chart of account. Remember, it is the most important part of the application. And yes, if you have any question for me, I can take. And in the next few minutes, we'll go on a break, say by 2:30. So we'll go on a 15-minute break. So it means we'll be converging back by 2:45. But in the meantime, if you have any question, please drop it for us, drop it for me. I would provide all answers, to that, right? Okay. So I got a question before now from Abu saying, how do we separate overlapping or similar items, e.g. vehicle maintenance and vehicle repairs when choosing code? That's a brilliant, question. Absolutely brilliant, right? So let me answer that. So yes, overlapping codes. Remember I mentioned, if you look at this step 3 here on how to create ledger accounts, it says we should specify GL code range. So for instance, for our accounts category, you should specify code range. So for instance, for my revenue, the code range is from 40,000 to 49,999. You can imagine I cannot finish it up. So for any revenue lines that I could have, right? So it will be 40,000, as in this case here, it is in multiples of 10. 40,000 10, 40,000 20. I would have it like this, right? 40,000 20, 40,000 30. So let me do this. 40,000 10, 40,000 20, 40,000 30. So in that case, there won't be any overlap. I won't exhaust, 40,000. And even in the case of expenses, I could say my expenses is starting with, maybe my expenses is starting with maybe 60,000 like we have here. I could say that my administrative expenses, right, will be 60,000 to, I could say, admin expense. I could be creative about it. I could say admin expense is 60,000 to 65,000. You understand? And any other kind of expenses, maybe business management expense, kind of expense, or staff cost, or all of those things. I could say we start from 66,000, to 68,000. I could just be dynamic, so that with that it helps me. There won't be any room for overlapping, as the case may be. So that comes in this step 3 when you provide a sufficient and adequate range for your account categories, then you won't have any form of overlapping, right? All right. So are there any other questions for me? If there is, please drop them. If there is none, please let's go on a short break, right? Then when we come back, right, we want to we now want to set up other aspects of our entity. We want to set up our inventory module. Very, very important. And for inventory module, for those of us that are within maybe the inventory department, or for us to have an understanding of how the inventory works system wise, right? How does it work when we want to configure? Because we have service items. Some organizations deal with services, like schools, like NGOs. They offer services, right? They don't deal with physical items. For those that deal with physical items, how do we go about configuration, right, in the system? We would see how we do that, right, when we come back from the training. We will configure, our suppliers module. We will configure our customers module, so that we will be able to capture transactions proper, right? And today we'll see how vendors related transactions, because that's what one area will be starting with transaction wise. Vendors related transactions, What are those things? When we hear purchase order, what does it mean? How do we raise purchase order in the system? How do we configure purchase orders, right? What is suppliers invoices, right? What is suppliers payment? How does it come in, right? How does suppliers invoices report, right? What is suppliers credit note? How does it where does it come in business wise, right? Instances where all of these things are being utilized are what we'll look at, right? So we are not just limiting the training for the accounting professionals. You see that we'll be making use of terminologies, layman terminologies as we proceed. So we'll come back, configure the applications, do transactions, generate reports, and it promises to be an interesting one because the training is just starting. Please endeavor to join us by 2:45, and we'll try as much as possible to keep to time. And it promises to be, another interesting session. So thank you so much, everyone. So please feel free to drop chats for us. Feel free to drop chats, and you can also reach us on WhatsApp too. But feel free to drop chats here. Thank you so much. So please drop those questions so that once we join by 2:45, we are attending, to all of those questions. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you by 2:45. Thank you. Once again, my name is Aziz Adeomi, and yes, welcome to, of course, still the day one training of our day one of our training on Sage Business Cloud Accounting Software, right? Like I mentioned, I have my colleagues here. I have Olabi Oshande here with me. I have Opsi Abduganu. I have Timileyin Okonlawon, and I have Joseph Ojekunle here with me. And we are all from Droidedge Consulting. Like we mentioned earlier, that Droidedge Consulting, we mentioned earlier that Droidedge Consulting is an IT firm that provides, seamless business management solutions, right? Form of customizations, training, and support for our clients across several industries, right? And, we are partners with Zoho, Sage, Microsoft, just to mention a few. And we serve, currently, can tell you for a fact, over 50 clients, across different industries in Nigeria and, of course, beyond, right? And a few of our services, sales of business management solution, implementation, training, support services. We have a couple of our clients that are using one or two softwares, and they are on retainerships with us. So anytime they have challenges or they needed someone who will guide them through on a couple of activities. So yeah, we are very much on course for that too. Third-party integration, we are looking at integrating two or more applications together to be able to talk together or pass across a couple of informations is our core function too as an organization, right? So yes, and we do project management. So if you are looking at deploying an ERP system for your firm, yes, we go to person with respect to project management, right? Yes, our applications, say S3, say 300, say 200 evolution, say 300 people, which is a payroll and HR system, say business cloud accounting, say business cloud payroll, and Zoho applications, Zoho One, Zoho Books, and the likes, right? Yeah, so our contact informations are what you are currently seeing on your screen, right? Please feel free to reach out to us should you have maybe any concern, should you want to deploy any application for your firm, right? Or you are currently using an application and you feel like you're having challenges with, please, feel free to reach out to us. We are very, very open to work with you. All right, so let's proceed into the training of the day. right? So I'm sure you can still see my screen. So a little recap of what we've done so far, right? So far today, we've been able to look at, accounting systems and ERP systems, and we've looked at different, uh, scenarios, right? Or the differences between the two. We looked at configuration of, we looked at the examples of those as well. And we looked at configuration of Sage Business Cloud itself, from logging in to setting up, company related informations, which we've done. We looked at uploading logos, right? Setting retention period and the likes, right? After that, we also looked at the general ledger, chart of accounts, and we looked at how we get to chart our accounts and other nomenclatures that you need to be aware of. We looked at that extensively too, right? And we were able to create a couple of ledger accounts, right? So now let us proceed into, other areas. Now, other areas as an organization, of course, when you've set up your chart of accounts, the next thing you want to think of basically is the items module. And the reason is why. Like the next question rather would be that why? Why are we considering the items module? It's simply because every organization is being created, right? To to either sell a particular goods, right, or render a couple of services, right, which at the end of the day could translate to, profit maximization, or if it could translate to maybe social, entrepreneurship or impacts in the society in case of NGOs and the likes, right? So we've set up the company defaults, the information is relating to the company. We've also set up, our chart of accounts relating to reporting, how we want, our items to easily report, right? So we've done that on the chart of accounts, how we want our reporting to be. So the next thing we want to do is to easily create, or to configure inventory item module, right? To configure inventory item module. And you will see here that in our class exercise, we have creating inventory items. But let's move back into the application proper. What are inventory items? Inventory items are the core services or products that an organization engage, in, be it buying and selling of those services, or buying and storing for internal consumables, right? Or you do render services. So either of these three, it's either you are buying an item and you are selling it, or you are rendering a service directly, or lastly, you are buying an item, storing it, and you are utilizing it internally in form of spare parts, all of those consumables, as the case may be, right? So those three falls under what we call inventory category, right? Under inventory category. And to create inventory, you would realize that the first thing we have here, we have item code, item name, item type, and we have item category. It simply means before we even create, the inventory item itself, it is important, it is necessary we define the categories that this inventory item, belongs to. And to do the category, we need to come to inventory items. Remember, I mentioned that list, under list, right? This is where you get to create new records, right? So if I come to list, rather than just going to list of items, I will do item categories because I want to create categories, right? And the essence of creating category is just to simplify reporting so that when we are generating reports, we can easily generate the report based on categories as well, And categories in this case, we have storage services and we have seafood. In other instances, categories could be anything. For instance, if let's say we are an IT company that sells gadgets, maybe we sell phones and we sell computer systems, we could create categories and call a certain category maybe computer, and we call another category phones, so that when we are creating our inventory items, for instance, maybe iPhone 15 Pro Max, let's say we sell that. If we are creating iPhone 15 Pro Max, we can easily link it to the category called phones. Samsung S20 Ultra, we can link it to the category called phones. We sell HP laptop Pavilion, we can link it to the category called computers. You understand? So that at the end of the day, aside from individual items, iPhone 15 Pro Max, Samsung S20 Ultra, as the case may be, we can generate a report showing us the category, the performance that, okay, I want to compare how much we've gotten from phone, revenues from phone, compared to the one we've gotten from computer. You understand? And so on and so forth. In our own case, we want to know how much we made from storage services and how much we made from, seafood items. That is category for you. So it is always good, right, when you are setting up a system or when you have an existing system, that you categorize your inventory items. Category is very, very important. It makes reporting much more easier. Look at that instance where I mentioned phones and laptops. In some cases, your categories, you could want to even go deeper. That, yes, I have different brands of Samsungs. I can just create a category called Samsung instead, right? And I'll create all the Samsung phones, S20 Ultra, Galaxy, A30s, this and that, S10, Samsung S10. When I create all of these items, they would all belong to the same category called Samsung. When I create all iPhone products, they would all be linked to the category called iPhone. So that at the end of the day, I can even generate a report to see on the total Samsung as a whole, separated from the total iPhone as they are performing. Do you understand? So it is good to categorize. As regards other inventory items now, you can categorize inventory items based on spare parts, can categorize them some and create them maybe consumables and so on and so forth. There is no one way to it, but just understand that category is always good and it helps you to in form of reporting. If I'm generating inventory valuation report, for instance, or inventory movement, I can generate that based on category. If I'm generating sales reports, I can generate that based on category, and it will be the category that I've defined, right? So in this case, I will create a category called storage services, right? I'll click on save and new, and I'll create the other category called seafood, right? I can call it seafood items. So now we've explained what categories, what it means, what they help in doing, right? And you see how it works, as we proceed. But that is how accounting software works generally. And a very good accountant would work on categorizing his or her records in the system, right? You always need to categorize them. Remember, technically, that's the same way we did for ledger accounts, because we were categorizing them by revenue, by expenses, by assets. So categories are very, very important. You understand? It makes your reporting seamless and easy. As an accountant, as a business person, right? And it's just, way, way easy for you. So we've created categories on items, right? Then let's go and create inventory items accordingly. But I want to do something. I've created category, but let me also go to my ledger account and create what we call item accounts. And I will tell you the reason why I'm creating item accounts. I want to create item accounts like general ledger, right? Based for my categories. I will tell you why. So that when I am creating, an item, I can link it to the category, and I can also link it to the general ledger account that it should report to. So let me do this. Let me create a ledger account called income, right, for storage and services. I will do that. I'll click another account. Let me create income for seafood items. So it's always good to create revenue items, revenue ledgers too, based on your categories. We create a revenue ledger, and we also create what we call cost of sales ledger, right? Cost of sales ledger. So I would come here, I would say COS storage services, right? And you see the reason why we are doing that shortly. I would explain the reason why we are doing that shortly. So report category, I will select purchases. Oh, I wanted to do save and new. Sorry. So I will create cost of sales for COS seafood items. You will see the reason for this shortly. Okay, I'll do see. So I went ahead to create, because I have created category, and I've created, revenue and expense, revenue and cost of sales ledger for that item. So when I come here and I come to list of items, now there is no item, right? Then let's create an item. Okay. So when you are creating an item, there is a fundamental question you need to ask yourself, right? This item I'm creating, is it a physical item or a service item? Very, very important question. As you can see here, item type, physical item or service item. Sorry. Now, what is the difference? Why is this important? When you are creating an item and you select it to be physical, it simply means system will track, quantity for those items. System will monitor the quantity you are purchasing and the quantity you are selling or utilizing, right? So the system would always track quantity for that creation you are trying to do. You understand? However, if we select service, service simply means the system will not track quantity because you cannot count it, you cannot feel it, you cannot touch it. For instance, as a revenue line, I want to create grants as an NGO, right? Schools, service items, because you render services, you might want to create tuition fee, right? Boarding school expense, maybe school bus or transportation fee. All of those are services that you render, and you would want to bill, your pupils or your students, for these activities, right? It's a service. Likewise, if it is an airline, you understand. Let's say you are into what's it called? Airline aviation sector, right? So you transporting passengers here and there is also a service, right? So you need to create such as a service. But if there's an item you trade in, you buy, you sell, or you buy and you use internally, then you create it as physical. So that is why it is very, very, utmost important when you are creating an inventory item record, right? So it will be so wrong for you to create a service item in place of a physical item and vice versa, right? So to create a stock item, I just need to come back to my record here, item 101, the code, I would identify the code. The description is called storage services, right? My category here, remember, because I've categorized it, right? So I'll just select. So then I will, what is my item type? It is a service item. So I will select service, right? And when I scroll down, look at this, item accounts. Now, when you are creating an inventory, be it service or physical, right? There is need to specify the reporting, ledger accounts, revenue-wise and cost-wise. That is one of those things that makes your reporting seamless. You understand, as an accountant. So it means, for instance, if by default, right, this is going to the default sales account and the default purchases account. But if I click on drop down, you see I have income seafood and income storage services. That was the reason why I went ahead to create, an item account the other time, sales wise. So if I select this, simply means when I'm invoicing my customers on this particular service, automatically this is where it will report to on my ledger account, so that when I'm generating my income statement, it will be automated. I don't have to do manual calculation. I don't have to bring out my calculator and start punching, figures. You don't have to do that. By default, you have done it here, right? That is one of the secrets, of you configuring an accounting software. That is why our training is such that you'll be able to configure an accounting solution yourself after the session, right? And the purchase account, remember we created a cost of sales to you. We link it accordingly. And when you are done, then you just click on save and new. That is it. So it means we'll be creating, other information, funds and the like. So account code, account description, category, so seafood items. So the item type, if it's physical or service, so prawns is physical, we can count it, right? Then if you scroll down, so the unit of measure, so let's say that we are selling prawn is in maybe kg, right? You can say we are selling it in kg, have pieces or anything there. Sales account, we select income for seafood items, and this for seafood items as well, right? I'll do that and I'll do save and new. That's easy. You can see how easy it is to create an inventory item. All you just need to do is to ensure that you select the right parameters when creating, an inventory item. So I will do the next one, coca, right? Seafood items. If there are any questions for me, please feel free to drop it. I would check them right away and I'll provide answers, right, to them. So seafood, I'll do save and new, right? I'll go ahead to create crabs. Okay. Category seafood items. So let me know when you have any question, when you are curious about anything, please, right? And I would do well to answer them. So catfishes, I'm just doing, a quick copy and paste, right? So that because of time, okay, save and new. Those are the peculiar information you need to set item wise. So there are some things you need to create as service items, and there are some things you need to create as stock items, right? So, okay. So this other area is where you get to specify the selling price. When you have, you want to set a selling price, and you can also set a price list, right, for an item. Okay, I'll do save and new. And that of the ice block. So let's say we sell ice blocks too. It's under storage, services. So ice block now, the unit of measure is pieces. And for ice block storage, services. And all I need to do is to click on save because it happens to be the final record. So on the inventory item list. All right. So are there any questions for me with respect to inventory? Remember what we are looking at is configuration at this stage. So quickly, we'll configure suppliers and we'll configure customers. Then we'll now proceed into opening balances, suppliers transactions as well. Then we call it a day and we converge, tomorrow. So it's still, so let me see, are there questions for me? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Godwin, cash in hand. Okay, how to create account type. Okay. Yeah. So there's a question there. I'll rephrase that again, Godwin. Okay, Anthony. All right. Okay. So I would go through what we've just done. Right. Okay. So there is a question also from Oladele. So I'll look into that shortly. So yes, there was a question about creation of account type. So account type, it affects, what's it called? Sage Business Cloud. The account type in this case, if the account type we are talking about is on the chart of accounts. So the account type are pre-added already, right? The account type, which is also category, right? They are pre-added, right? All you just need to do is just to select one of these available, account types that you have when you are creating a ledger account. But another thing I've just worked on, which I think Godwin might be asking, is maybe categories, item categories. I mentioned that when creating, any record, items, suppliers, customers, it is easy for you, or it is best for you to categorize them, and which is done under the list section here. So if I come to list and I come to item categories, it brings me to this screen. All I need to do is to add category, right? Then I can just type in. So here, let me just call it sample category. I will delete this, right? Let me call it sample category and I save. To have created a new category, right, called sample category. So if I, just a moment, come to my item categories, you can see sample category. So that is how you create, let me delete it. That is how you create a category basically. And another thing I did was at the point of creating an item, because I wanted, the system to do, like, I want the reporting to be seamless. So when creating an inventory item, most times the system, all accounting software allows you to set up the reporting ledger account primarily when you are creating the item. Right? When you are creating the item, you'll be able to select the reporting leg of that ledger, of that item, so that when I bill customer, when I raise invoices, this is where the revenue should report to. And that is how you come about your financial statement at the end of the day. Right? So to make provision for that, because I have an option to just let it go to the sales, the default sales account. But it won't be good enough because all the sales will be batching into one ledger. A good accountant would not do that. So you need to categorize your revenues so that you can advise the management to say, this is the amount we've made from this aspect of the business. This is the amount we've made from that, aspect of the business. Which in this case, that was why I now went ahead to create what we call sales account on Sales Business Cloud. Right. So I went ahead to create sales account, which you can also do here. So on sales account, there are two options when you are creating a new sales account. It's either you are creating a sales, mean a revenue account, or you are creating, a cost of sales, which of course, is a direct cost account. So that was just what I had done earlier. So you come here, create an item, link it to the category which you must have created, right? And you come here to link the reporting ledger account to. So you understand how it works, right? You understand how it works. So in some softwares like say 200 Evolution, you link these guys at the group, at the category level, actually group level, these guys, right? But with respect to say business class, Zoho, QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online and the likes, it is at the point of creating the ledger, the record, that is when you define, the reporting leg, right, of that. So I hope I answered your question, right, Mr. Godwin. All right. Okay. Yes. So item account, very, very straightforward. So you can create it if you come to items account rather, you can create it from account screen. If I come to add an account, see it's add an item account. So you just click on it. So you can do it from this screen, right? I can say I'm creating a sales or I'm creating a purchase type. So sales is revenue, right? Purchase is cost of sales, as the case may be. So you can do it from there, and you can do it from the item screen too, which is the last option I mentioned now, right? So from here, I can just click on this drop down, create a new purchase account, and I can also create a new, income account. So that is how you create item accounts. All right. So yes, there's a question from Oladele saying, this is an area where a chart of account or category has been created in Fieldwork, such as where analysis has been done into the above mentioned, right? Also, a journal was raised that which needs to be posted to TB. Can that journal be used in Sage Business? Absolutely, yes. Yes. So journal entries is also an area we'll look into. Yes, of course. If there's any proposed journal, as the case may be, yes, it's something you can post on that Sage Business Cloud accounting software. So we look at journal entries and the likes tomorrow, basically, right? Those are one of the areas we would cover tomorrow. We'll look at how you can pass audit related adjustment journals, right? And the likes. So we'll look at that tomorrow. Look at how audit exercise goes, the reports we need for your audit exercise, if there is any adjustment that needs to be passed or audited adjustment TB, then yes, we'll look at all of those, tomorrow. But that is how you create inventory items. I hope, I'm very, very clear on that. I hope you can still hear me clearly. So let's just move quickly, right? We've created inventory items. The rest are straightforward. Let's create suppliers and customers, because of course, you cannot have a business without having suppliers, right? And suppliers are of two types, right? Suppliers, you have suppliers that are, trade creditors, and you also have suppliers that are, sundry creditors. What are the differences between these two? That is the area we are moving on to now. So we are done with items configuring the inventory items module, right? Let us move quickly into configuring the suppliers module, right? And the customers module. So let's take the suppliers module first. Of course, when you have an inventory item, it's not you that would supply yourself. Even if you are manufacturing anything, there still need to purchase a couple of components or raw materials that you make use of, right? And that is where the suppliers module comes to play, right? So the suppliers module, like I mentioned earlier, this is a module that is specially created for accommodating suppliers related activities, right? Be it creation of suppliers record or transactions being posted and also reports being generated, right? So now the question is, how do we create suppliers in the system? It is very simple. You need to come to the suppliers module, list, right? Remember, before you start creating your suppliers record, firstly, always categorize. You need to create categories. And your categories could be, in any segment as you might want it. But I can tell you that naturally, when it comes to vendors, we have two primary categories. But organizations can now choose to further categorize their vendors as they may wish, right? Now, what are the two default categories, basically? Firstly is your trade creditors, or we call it trade vendors, right? These are the vendors, that that supplies you. They are very, very integral, right, as to the supplies of what it is that you sell. You understand? They are your trade vendors. So if they do not supply you, if you don't buy things from them, right, there is no way, you can carry out your activities to your customers. Take, for instance, let's say we buy and sell laptops, right? So those we buy laptops from in bulk, it could be HP directly, right? It could be Sony directly. So those are our trade vendors or trade creditors, as the case may be, provided what they are supplying us is what we are into primarily. Then they are our trade creditors or trade vendors. And we also have another category called sundry vendors or sundry creditors. So these other categories are for our vendors that provide us, other related activities. You understand? Maybe we have a security company, where they do provide security services for us. So on a monthly basis, we get to pay them. They are our vendor, right? But there are sundry vendors. Maybe we have cleaners. Maybe we have those that come in to do repairs and maintenance for us. And we want to keep their record as vendors because they render credit facility for us, right? We could choose to pay them advance and settle them later. So if we want to register them as a vendor, then we need to create them as sundry vendors. So those are the two primary categories, right? So let's create them accordingly. So I would come here and say trade creditors, right? Or trade vendors, as the case may be. I would do save and new. Then I would also create what? Sundry creditors. But I think and I hope that we have an understanding of the difference, right, between these two categories. So remember, as a very good accountant, you need to always categorize your record. The reason is when we get to the reporting phase, we can generate a report to say that, oh, those that are our sundry creditors, who are we owing? How much are we owing our sundry creditors? How much are we owing our trade creditors? It is good we categorize them. Do you understand? Some could categorize their vendors based on foreign vendors or local vendors. Some could also categorize their vendors, right, based on areas. Oh, this vendor is in Lagos, this one is in Abuja, this one is in Nigeria. So there is no one way thing to the categorization of vendors, right? But I am aware and I know that there are two primary categories. You understand that you could have, that you must at least have, right? That makes your reporting much more easier. That is what we've done primarily. So having done that, we can now choose to now go to our list of suppliers to now create vendors. Because when we are creating vendors, we can now link them to the categories that they belong to. Can we see how this is flowing? Right? It's a step-by-step thing. Right? Because when we are able to, because if you do not understand all this part, all these nitty-gritty parts, right, then if we just proceed to transaction phase, you won't really get it. And it's not just based on Sage Business Cloud. That is how all software works. There is always room for categorization, and when you categorize it makes it easy for your reporting. You understand? It makes it easy for your reporting, right? Okay, so to create a new vendor, do we have any exercise, right, relating to that in our record? Let's locate our documents, right? So I would refer to my class exercise, scroll down a little bit. These are customers. yes, these are vendors, right? So what I will do basically is to come here. You can see these are the list of vendors. We have 4 vendors that we are to create with these other relevant information, right? So I will proceed back to my software, supplier name. What is the supplier name? Going Well Nigeria Limited. I will copy this and I'll paste here. Category. So they belong to, not something. So they are trade creditors, right, to us. So we select trade creditors, right? So you realize we have opening balance and what have you here. We will still treat the aspect of opening balance, as we proceed, right? But this here is just leave it to be 0, right? We'll see how opening balance works as we proceed. Then if I scroll down, are there other relevant information relating to the vendor? Yes. So for instance, this is the address. I would indicate that this is the vendor's email. So these are just, datas that these are random datas that were populated, right? So I will do that, right? So I haven't done that, then I would click on save and new, right? I will click on save and new. So, but there are a couple of other informations I can keep, like other additional contacts from the vendors end. So I can keep multiple informations. I can add another name, like contact person, right, within the firm. I can add the vendor's banking details so that it makes it easy when we want to make payments, to them. And I can add other notes, right? Other notes, in here. So once I do that, I can click on save and new. That is how you create a vendor in your system, right? Remember, it starts from creating categories first. We need to have defined our categories. Then we can now proceed in creating all our other information relating to the vendor. So, and vendors can always be created, as they come, right? Can always be created as they come. So let us create this as this is Sulere. Maybe I can just do this. Please, if there are any questions, please feel free to drop them. For me, we are here to answer them, right? And yeah. And remember, the essence of the training is that you would also take your time, go through the video, practice. We would create a group chat like we mentioned. When you have questions, feel free to drop it on the group chat. Your questions will be useful for others. We'll rub minds together over the group chat. My colleagues and I would answer all your questions. If there is need to jump on a quick call to explain some things or voice note, or, we would trust us, we'll do all that, right, to ensure you get the best, from the training. So let's link this to sundry creditors, right? And sorry, address. So we don't just train, right? We don't just say, oh, we've trained. No, we ensure our classes are practical. We don't just do theories and all that, right? So we'll do that. We'll do save and new. Then lastly, for the vendors, Pan Ocean Nigeria Limited, I will create that. So let's take that also to sundry creditors, just for the purpose of reporting, right? So address, I'm only doing copy and paste. Sorry, I'm a bit fast. It's just because of time. It's just this has to do with creation. Remember, these are just random informations or data, right? These are not real data. So once I'm done, I'll just click on save. And that's all. That is all that is required in creating, vendors, right? So if there are questions for me with respect to vendors, at any point in time when there are new records, vendors records, it's easy just to come and add a vendor, right? So the last record we want to create would be customers. How do we create customers, right? How do we create customers? So when you are looking at adopting an accounting solution, the first thing you will do is to ensure you configure all of these modules so that it makes it easy when you are now posting, right? It makes it easy when you are posting. So I will just go ahead straightforward to add customers. You know, customers in this case, customers are those we render services for or those we sell items for to be able to recognize revenue or income. You understand? So customers, as in the case of a school, customers would be students. As in the case of an NGO, right? Customers would be the grantors, right? Those that are giving you grants, Gates Foundation, USAID, Federal Ministry of Health, and all that, all these other. So they would be your customers in this case, right? Those that provided your relationship with them would amount to revenue or income or inflow, right? You need to think of treating them as customers in your software. Do you understand? Right? So let me see if there are questions for me before I move to customers. Okay. Please confirm if I'm still very much audible, please, and if you can see my screen, because we need to ensure we are together, right? Because mind you, once we are done with creating customers, then we'll move to one of those areas that most people, lack knowledge, right? Which is the concept of opening balances. So many people don't even know how to account for opening balances when working with accounting systems. When people hear opening balances, so many people mistake it for another thing entirely. And are there any concerns you're having with respect to opening balances? We'll provide clarity on it, and we'll do hands-on practical together in this session, right? After customers creation. So you see, we still have interesting, things to do just today. And you see that opening balances area is one area I can bet you wouldn't want to miss, right? Because most people get it wrong. Most accountants get it wrong. We'll provide clarity for you here, and we'll train you accordingly, right, on the concept, of opening balances and how it relates to accounting system. What are those things you need to look out for when talking about opening balances, right? Those are what we'll look at in a short while, right? But let's just quickly, proceed to create customers. So let me confirm you can still hear me. Okay, yeah, thank you, Maxwell, for that acknowledgement. Okay, so let's quickly proceed. So let's create customers before we now move to opening balances, right? Which is one area I personally am excited, right, to walk us through on. All right, so our customer, I mentioned customer category. We can categorize our customers by anything. We can categorize our customers by cash customers, credit customers, working customers. We can categorize our customers by maybe corporate customers or individual customers, right? We can categorize our customers to say, trade receivables, right? Or trade debtors, right? And we can also categorize some and have, sundry debtors, as the case may be. You understand? So there's no one way thing to it, right? Categories, you need to just ask yourself, right? My customers, are there any peculiar insights that I want to be able to get with respect to my customers reporting? I mentioned some would want individuals or create corporates. Why? Because some organizations would want to say, do we have more corporate customers than individual customers? They want to know. They want to know, okay, what is their revenue, right? In line with corporate customers compared to individuals, so that they can know where to channel their energy, right? Some can even segment their customers by the product or the service they are rendering to them. You understand? So, and so on and so forth. But always remember that categories are important. It gives you, grounded insights, right? As a business person, and also as an accountant that has worked with a software. So if you've not done that before, look at doing that, going forward. Always categorize for meaningful reporting and meaningful insights. All right. So let's create customers quickly. So I'll just go to customers list. Under list, I'll go to list of customers. Then I do not have any existing customers. They are empty. So I'll just do what? Click on add a customer because I am creating a new record. So quickly, I'll just tab here. So I'm moving for my screen quickly with Alt and Tab on my keyboard. So if I do Alt and Tab, then I can move to this screen. So you can see I'm just switching easily rather than manually clicking, right? So you just do Alt, the alternative key on your keyboard and the Tab, key on your keyboard. So it makes it easy to navigate from one screen to the other, right? Swiftly on your system. So let's take this to the trade debtors, right? We move down, address, okay? Customer's email, okay? Then phone number, it's all right. So if there's any other relevant information you want to keep, you can easily do that here, right? And mind you, look at default settings here. There is something very, very peculiar to customers when it comes to customers creation on Sage Business Cloud. Statement distribution, by default, it's on email, right? Mind you, if you leave this as email, it means you need to provide an email address compulsorily. If you fail to provide an email address and statement distribution is on email, if you click on save, it will not go. You get an error saying the customer is set up to receive statement via email. So you need to specify an email. You understand? But you now ask yourself, not all customers have emails now, right? And not customers are willing to give you their email. Yes. So it means if there is no email pertaining to that customer, then you need to come here, right, and change this to print instead. But normally by default, we always advise you make it print an email, actually. But if there is no email, in that customer's record, it's either you set it to print or you set it to none, right? Very, very important. So we'll do that. If there's any other information, additional contact, you can keep it. Notes, you can keep it, right? And I'll just click on Save and New. So the only thing I mentioned here is the relationship of this email column and the statement distribution, right? I hope we are taking it. So let's create another customer quickly and swiftly. Our time is fast spent. So we'll do opening balances and we'll call it a day, right? So okay, so I'm just doing copying and pasting, right? Because of time, right? Phone number, yeah. So I'll do save and new. Sorry, I'm moving fast because of time. So West Atlantic, I'll do that there. So address, sorry, my category. Let's make this one sundry debtor, right? So email and phone number. Okay. So I'll change this to statement, print and email. I will do save and new. Progress limited. I hope we all are still together. So please, if there are any questions or any concern, please feel free to call my attention to it. Okay, phone number. And I want to change this to email, print an email. So what that print and email is saying is that we want to send invoices, right, to customer, because Sage Business Cloud allows you to do that. You can send invoices to customers, and you can send quotes directly to customers. So when we say email, so we want the ability to send it via email and also to print it out. So that's why we are choosing print and email, right? So konko@gmail.com and phone number. So I'll do this and I'll do, oh, sorry, I didn't change that email, but it still works anyways because I actually did provide the email, so it still works. Okay. So we've created customers. Now, what it means is that with what we've done, right, we have configured our system. We are done with the configuration phase, right? What else? We've created the company details, right? We've created the chart of accounts, right? We've created inventories. We've set up inventories accordingly. We've created, suppliers and made provision for suppliers records. Likewise, customers, right? What else do we really need with respect to, Sage Business Cloud? Nothing other than transactions and reports, right? But it's just that you just need to understand this basic nitty gritty, and that is how applications to work. Other applications. When you want to set up, what you should think of setting up primarily would be the company details, the chart of accounts. You want to set up the inventory systems, the way it reports, to your ledger as well. The suppliers, the customers, the banking, and that's all. Right. So now we are done with the configuration phase. We can as well say, yes, we are proud implementer, right, of Sage Business Card Accounting. We are done with the configuration phase, right? The next phase would be the transactional phase. However, before you start posting transaction, please pay attention here. For those that are accountant and non-accountant, as far as software usage is concerned, as far as software adoption is concerned, right? We want to assume, this is not the first time the company, is, or the business is the company is into, this business, basically, right? We've been operating before now, right? The assumption is that we've been operating before now, but if we are just adopting a software now, there are two different things. An organization could have been in business, right? And at a later date, they now agreed to now, adopt a software. That point when you've adopted the software, everything is blank now, transaction-wise and report-wise. But does it mean that we do not have any activities before now? No. There are activities before now. And where that would lead us is that before you even start posting on the software, you need to consider what we call opening balances. You need to consider opening balances in your software, right? So opening balances is that phase that we'll just get into now before we call it a day, right? So many of us could have been hearing the term opening balances. What does it mean? When does it come to play? How do organizations go about opening balances, right? This is the next phase, right? That the training would expose us, into being accounting professionals, that we have, right? Now, we are done configuring. We need to go through the route of opening balances, right? We need to go through the route of opening balances. So first thing, what are opening balances, right? What are opening balances? So let me see if I have any question before now. Okay, I think no question. Please, we're about rounding up basically. So the opening balances is just one other area we just want to take home, right? Now, Opening balances are just a moment. I think I should have something worthy of notes to share. One moment. Okay. So let's proceed. If I'm able to get my hands, on it, I would share with us to our respective emails. All right. So opening balances, right? Now we want to okay. So now we've been in business, right, before now. And the fact that we are just adopting, an accounting solution now does not mean that is the first time the organization will be raising invoices or will be no. Recall, even if we are starting up with, even if we are adopting this software January 2025, we have a couple of balances existing already. Last year, 2024, there are possibilities that we have those that will owe us, customers that had not settled all their bills. If it was a school, let's say there are a couple of students that had not, cleared off their debts, right? Likewise, normal customers, there are one or two debts that could be outstanding, right? So now that we are adopting an accounting software in this current year, then we need to bring them in. We need to, bring them as part of our, 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 our records we'll be adopting in this new software, right? Likewise, our bank balances, because we are adopting Sage Business Cloud this year, does not mean we do not have balances in our banks. We would have balances, right? And those balances needs to be accounted for in this new software. Do you understand? Right? Likewise, vendors that we owe, likewise, all our assets, there would be, balances, that needs to be brought in into this current system. And that is where opening balance, comes in. So opening balance would be coming in two primary scenarios. Let's note that. Opening balances would be coming in firstly, right? If we, as an entity, if you are just adopting a new accounting software, when you are adopting a new accounting software, then opening balances needs to come to play. Meaning there needs to be a cutoff from your existing manual record or existing accounting system that needs to be migrated into your new accounting. So anytime you're adopting a new software, right, opening balances would come to play. That is the first thing, right? It means we need to bring in existing balances that were existing before, right, into this new software so that our reporting will be up to date. That is the first, instance, right? And another instance where you could hear people talk about opening balances, generally now would be okay when we are talking about, in accounting, right? When we are ushering in a new, financial year, basically. So generally, when we are talking about a new financial year, you could be asked to say, oh, what was the opening balance for this financial year? So it means that is what the balances that were coming from previous year, you understand, that you are opening with now, right, is what you call. So that is also another scenario you could hear people use the term opening balances, right? But let me also bring your attention to something that people, would talk about opening balances and you could hear people talk about closing balances. The question you want to ask yourself is, are there any difference between these two, right? Yes, opening balances. We understand the concept of opening balances now. We understand, the scenarios where opening balances needs to be talked about. Fine. But you also hear people use the term closing balances. Are there differences? The truth is, there are no differences. The only difference you have, right, is what is just the nomenclature and the context at which the two are being used. You understand? Opening balances and closing balances, they literally mean the same thing. But it's just that the context at which you use them differs. Right? Take, for instance, we are ushering in a new accounting year. You understand? 2025. Right? Our accounting period is January to December. Understood, right? So it means January 2025, we need to, be looking at 1st of January 2025, we need to look at the concept of opening balances. Do you understand? But mind you, the closing of a certain financial year, you understand, for balance sheet account would always form the opening for the next accounting year. Take, for instance, you see, when we are talking about 2024 reports, right, we'll be talking about closing balances as at 31st December 2024. That is what we are closing the year with, right? That is closing balances, because it's the balance, that is being accounted for at the end of the financial year. Closing balances, right? But you see that closing balance is still the same thing will be referred to as what? Our opening balances for 2025, January 1st, 2025. You see that it's still the same thing. But it's just that the context at which we are using it. So that same report you are seeing, that same trial balance you are seeing, by the time you go to 1st of January 2025, you don't call it closing balances again. Rather, you call it opening balances for 2025. Right? So you can see that it's just the context. So when you are talking about opening balances of 2025, what we are also talking about is the closing balances of 2024. Do you understand? Now, so let's say we want to talk about bringing in opening balances for 2025 accounting year in our system, right? It means we will be providing the closing of 2024, because automatically the closing of an accounting year would automatically form the opening, right, of the next accounting year. Now, the tricky part is just that, mind you, you see that closing balances we are having for 31st December 2024. By the time, we are translating it to opening balance for 2025, remember, we mentioned that it is only balance sheet account that its balances would always go over to the new accounting year. So balance sheet account will remain the same. But income statement accounts, when you come to opening balances, right, they will automatically be written off. To where exactly? That's the question. So if I have my income statement as part of my TB, my income statement ledger, right, maybe here they are listed here, right, and they are written off. If I say that automatically income statement ledgers are being written off in the start of a new financial year, the question is to where? I'm sure the accountants in-house will be able to answer that question, right? So ask yourself to where, and that is how software works. That is where software comes in, right? The answer to that is that when, your income statement ledger accounts, when you're moving into a new accounting year, right, your income statement balances would automatically be written off to your retained earnings, right? It will automatically move to your retained earnings. So when you are talking about opening balances of 2025, we are talking about balance sheet account and what? Your retained earnings. This guy we are talking about here, retained earnings, right? So opening balances and closing balances, they, translation, they are more like the same thing, but it's just that the context at which they are being used differs, right? Talk about, if we are talking about, you could be asked that, oh, what was our inventory quantity as at December 1st, 2024, for instance? What was the inventory quantity you have in your system? What they are talking about is that what did you close for as at 30th of November 2024? That is it. Because it is the closing of the previous period or previous year that would automatically form the opening, right, of the next period. So the closing of 30th of November 2024 would form what? The opening of December 1st, 2024. I don't know if I'm clear, if you understand. So I want to be sure you got that, correctly, right? Okay, Toby cannot hear me, but please, any other person confirm you can hear me clearly. Then let's just quickly proceed, right? To now we've understood the concept of opening balances or closing balances, as the case may be, right? But what are needed when we talk of opening balances? What is expected from us? When auditors are saying, give us your closing balances, what are expected, right? When an accounting consultant, right, is saying, give me your opening balances, what is expected? Four primary things are what you need, basically. Four primary things are what you need, right? And quickly, because of time, right, the four primary things you need, basically, the first one is the trial balance. You need your trial balance, right, as at that certain date. The next thing you want is what? Your customer's balance schedule or schedule. And I would explain to you. So the next one you want is your what? Supplier schedule. Then lastly, we have what we call what? Inventory valuation. So that will show you what? The item costs and quantities for organizations that are into physical stock items. So now, when you talk about opening balance, there needs to be a date. So your opening balance or closing balance should be as at a certain date. So when we talk about opening balance of January 2025, for instance, then it simply means what we are talking about is what? Closing balance as at December 31st, 2024, right? Do you understand? So when we talk about opening balance of January 2025, it also means, the closing balance as at 31st December. So I think I've explained that earlier. And these are the components that are needed. Trial balance, customer balance schedule, suppliers balance, and inventory valuation. Why? Now, the trial balance is the major thing you need, right? Normally. But in your trial balance, there are what we call control accounts, meaning those balances you have there in your control account, are those balances you have in your control account. There are a couple of records that are reporting into it. Take, for instance, your receivable, right? Take, for instance, your payables, and take, for instance, your inventory account. So those are the three primary control accounts that you would always have, right? Software-wise, right? So the receivable figure on your TB, when you have a receivable figure to say that we have customers that are owing us up onto the total of 2 million naira, right, on your trial balance. Now, what this guy is now supposed to do for you is that you need to have a schedule that will back it up to say that this customer A, customer B, customer C are those that are owing me. Customer A is owing me 1 million. Customer B is owing me 700,000, and customer C is owing me 300,000. And when we check, this individual balance, it should tally with the figure you have on your TB for receivable. That is why this guy is important. This guy will show the breakdown of customers' balances. The next guy will show the breakdown of suppliers' balances. And the last one will show the breakdown of inventory balances. But remember, on the face of your TB, you will be having it as a bulk figure. But having it as bulk figure is not enough. When you are talking about opening balances, we need to be specific as to the customers that are owing us, the suppliers we are owing, and the inventory it is that we have on hand as at that cutoff period. So I hope that is clear. Then once we understand that, right, and once we understand that and we make provision for that, then how do we bring in opening balances on Sage Business Cloud Accounting? The first two parts I walked us through, concept of opening balances, closing balances, and what is needed when we are talking about opening balance and closing balance is important, and it works across softwares, right? So The next thing is, how do we bring in opening balance? So let's just quickly look at that. Then we take questions and we call it a day. So it's been a wonderful day, absolutely, for all of us, right? Then to bring in opening balances on Sage Business Cloud Accounting, you go to your company module, then you see opening balances. You select it. All right, and the screen would come up. Okay, I hope I'm still very much audible and you can still see my screen. All right. So one moment, please. All right. All right. So let's just bring in opening balances. And, this is, once we conclude this part, I mean, there's a lot that you just need to, if you look at all what we've gathered today, I mean, even for that fee, you can tell that, there's indeed, value, right, for the whole, for the money. Okay. So now when bringing in opening balances, always remember that at any point in time, I mentioned that we need to select a date. There needs to be a cutoff date for your opening balances. There needs to be a cutoff date for your opening balances. Now, we want to assume, right, that these are opening balances is as at 31st, right? 31st December 2024, right? 31st December 2024. Why? Because we want to bring in opening balances for 2025. But the question is, why are we selecting 31st December 2024? When you are bringing in opening balance, always take it one day back. I hope you got me. Always take it one day back. Reason is this. I don't know how best to explain this to you. But you see, let's assume we want to bring in opening balance for 1st of January 2025, like we want to do. You see, if I select this 1st of January 2025, normally, there shouldn't be any conflict between our opening balance date, right, and our first transaction date in the system. Because when we bring in opening balance now, we would have transactions for 1st of January 2025. Do you understand? Let's say we could have incurred some expenses on that date. We would want to post it using the correct date, which is 1st of January 2025. But if we bring in opening balances using that same date, there will be conflict. And when there are conflicts, when you go back to generate your reports as at 1st of January 2025, it won't just show you the opening balance any longer. It will show you the opening balance, right, in addition with the transaction you've captured for 1st of January 2025. So that is why we always advise, right, and that's the general principle across any software. Now, when you are bringing in opening balance, we know it's ought to be 1st of January 2025, but take it one day back so that your opening balances will be independent, right? And your transaction, your first transaction in the system would equally be independent. So when I want to generate my opening balance, I'll generate it using 31st December 2024. When I want to generate transactions reports now, I can generate that using 1st of January 2025. Do you understand? As it goes on. That is one key concept of opening balances that you need to note. You need to take note that if nothing, you gained, that in here too. So we'll select 31st of December 2024, right? Or yes, then we click on save, right? Then we just locate, the figures we are to input for individual ledgers. And you will see something here that every other figure or ledger account here, right? You can see they have their ledger name, right? And debit, credit in form of TB. But 3 out of them, right, has this button called add so. That is because what? They are control accounts. What are control accounts in accounting software? Inventory ledger accounts, customers receivable control accounts, suppliers payables control account. Those are primary, right? Our time is fast spent. Okay, so let's just slot in the figures, the trial balance, right? So if we locate this exercise, right, you see debit, credit, plant and equipment at cost 800,000. So let me come here. This is my TB, right? Plant equipment at cost. See it here. It's a debit balance 800,000, right? The next one, accumulated dip, plant and equipment 200,000. I will just slot it in absolutely like that. Account dip. Okay, see it here. That's credit balance, right? The next one is leasehold, 500,000 debit. So I will slot it in leasehold at cost debit. Okay. The next one is account dip, 100,000 leasehold. So I will slot that in also, right? 100,000. So that's the TB we're entering here, the trial balance. So retained earnings is 950,000 credit. So I would come here, search retained earnings, see it here, retained. So retained earnings, credits, right? 950,000. Receivable, 1,000,000, 50,000, right? And there's a breakdown actually, right, for this. So we'll still leave these 3. That's why we have it colored, right? So prepaid rent, 168,500. So let me search for it. Sorry, I'm moving very fast. It's just because of time. I don't want to, we ought to have stopped by 4. So please, I just want to ensure you got this part too clearly, right? So banks, Zenith Bank has a balance of 750, right? 750. GT Bank PLC 510. GT Bank 510. Sterling Bank 35,000. Sterling 5,000. And cash in hand 50,000. Okay. Then we have share capital of 1.5 million. So let me search for. Okay. So I think share capital does not exist. So we are here to create that. So let's slot it into owner's contribution, right? Let's take it to owner's contribution, 1.5 million in credit. But you see that our TB is not balanced yet. There's a thumbs down, right? And that is because of those this thing that we are here to add. So let's quickly add them. Receivable, let's treat receivable first. So I'll click on add customer here. Then what is the total receivable balance? This, you can see customer's opening balance. Yeah, what we are talking about is the customer schedule. So what is the customer's balance? 1 million. Sorry, 1,050,000. I'll enter that here. Then the breakdown. If we look here, then we should see the breakdown here too. So opening balances for suppliers, opening balances for customers. So Bakers Nigeria Limited 200,000. So I will come here, locate Bakers Nigeria Limited, opening balance 200,000. 200,000. So Noble Drilling 100,000. Noble Drilling 100,000. Right. West Atlantic 100,000. Sorry. I'm moving so fast because of the time, but I just want to ensure we understand and we conclude this part. So Progress Limited 500,000. That's their opening balance, meaning the balances we are carrying forward before the adoption, of this software. And you only need to do it once, right? You only need to do it once. You don't have to do it every year, no, because this is the first time we are adopting the application. So now we have a thumbs up, meaning our customers is tallying, right? Our customer breakdown is tallying with what we have on our trial balance. So we'll do that. Customer is done, you can see. Then let's do that of suppliers. You see trade payables. Let's locate trade payables. You see it's here going well, 100,000. Let me just copy it here. So going well, 100,000. See opening balance here. I would enter it 100,000. That AC 50,000. Right. See that AC 50,000 here. Then we're doing Nigeria Limited 100,000. Okay. Okay. Here the mistake here. So credit limit should be here instead. The opening balance. Right. Then the last Pan Africa 200,000. Pan Ocean rather 200,000. Okay. Now there is still a thumbs down. So what's the total on the TB? So the total payable on the TB is what? 450,000. So I will copy this for 50,000, right? And I'll click on save, right? That's that. Then lastly, the inventory, right? I'll click on add item for inventory opening balance too. So remember, those are the sub. So these are the inventory. For inventory, we would need quantity and we need cost, right? So prawn, this is 10 at 4,000 for prawns. So prawns are 4 quantity. So 4,000 and the quantity is 10, right? You see, this is opening quantity, this is opening cost, right? And the system will calculate the total value. Coca, 20 at 5,000, right? So Coca, so 5,000, 20, okay? So crabs, 10 at 3,150. So this is 3,150 and this is 10 pieces, right? 20 at 1,000 for catfish, right? Okay. Yeah. Lobster 20 at 2,000. So where is lobster? See it here. Okay. Then lastly, ice block 15 at 7,000. Right. Ice block 15 at 7,000. Okay. So that's then the total 336,500. Is that what we have on our TB? For inventory, where is it? 336. So the tallies, right? So when we are done with this, so we should have a thumbs up. Okay, we have a thumbs up. So save. So our trial balance should now balance, which is our opening balance now, should be balanced. And with that, it means we can then proceed to post our transactions. Our reports will be up to date. It will be, so fine. And I mean, we have quantity on hand. We can buy more, quantities to add up to what we have in existence. And, we can also do carry out sales invoices. So, my beautiful people, that is the concept behind opening balances. So it means when we go to generate reports as it is now, our report should be the same thing as what we have in our opening balance, right? And that is the concept behind opening balance, right? So opening balance is very, very important when you're adopting a new software, right? And we know the two instances when we can be talking about opening balance, or when we hear closing balance, we know the instance where it comes to play. And it is on this note, right? So I'm trying to finalize this. So once this is being saved, I would finalize that part of opening balance screen too. Then of course, we are done with the day 1 of the training. So if there are any questions, please drop it for us. And like we mentioned, we'll be creating a group chat. And today we'll be sending, all right. So today we'll be sharing with us once the training video is available. Right, we'll share it with us so that we can all go through it. Please, tomorrow's session promises to be much more interesting. We'll be looking at transactions and source documents, right? Vis-a-vis reporting, right? As it affects accounting software as a whole. So we'll be looking at journal entries, we'll be looking at bank reconciliation, we'll be looking at budget, we'll be looking at purchase orders, suppliers invoices, payments, credit notes, all of those things, and which period is it are they applicable to be used for? How do we reverse, entries and accounting systems, and so on and so forth, right? Thank you so much, everyone. I think my network is trying to, come up here. And if there are questions, please ask them. Yes. So Emmanuel asked that how can you get certification for this software? Yes. So absolutely. We would, after the training proper, right, we will be sending our respective certificates, to us, right? We'll send it to our respective email. So electronically, we'll send it. Yeah. So that's after you get it after tomorrow's session, basically. And the second question is that, is it possible to export documents from other software to this software? Absolutely. Yes. So Sage Business Cloud allows you import, transactions or source documents. Right? You can import expenses, you can import bank statements, you can import invoices, and so on and so forth, right, on this particular application. It is an application that is, very, very easy to use, right? It is very, very easy to use application, and is one that, you would enjoy using. Right? Are there any other questions? And I hope that today's training was so insightful. We hope it was so insightful. And please, let's endeavor to. We look forward to our reviews. Right? We look forward to our reviews because these are what keeps us going also, right, as an entity that we have, right? So please, we hope, and I do sincerely hope, that the session was worthwhile. Yes, you can import from Excel to the software, right? And please also have it at the back of the mind that this is actually a very, very much discounted training, right? It is a discounted training, right? Okay, so Emmanuel, you specified that. So yes, I would. Please, you can send us a chat on WhatsApp. We'll look at that, with you, right? Yes. So for Sunday too, yes, you can please reach out to us, and also we'll be showing us tomorrow. Aside from the 30 days trial for our practice, right? Sage also makes provision for what we call demo company too for us. That even if after our 30 days trial, we can always access that demo company to practice at any point in time beyond the 30 days. So we'll show us tomorrow how we can also do that. Let's endeavor to join, right? But we do hope that the training is, and we do hope it was very, very insightful, right? Please, we'll create a group chat and we look forward to our response, right, on the group chat. We look forward to, overview. And after this session, there is a session where you get to rate us. So please endeavor to rate us. And we look forward to our ratings, our honest rating. And remember, we are Droidedge Consulting, like we mentioned before. And this is our contact information. Please reach out to us on these lines via WhatsApp should you want to configure accounting solutions for your business, for your organization, or you have an accounting solution and you're having challenges, with it. So please endeavor to reach out to us, right? So thank you so much, everyone. let's keep it, a day tomorrow. And thank you so much. And it promises to be a much more interesting session tomorrow. That I can assure you, right? And thank you so much, everyone. We sincerely do hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. All right. Thank you, Maxwell. Thank you, Abu. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Sunday. Right, Joy, Alfred, uh, uh, Sunday. So to the rest, Tobiloba, to the rest of everyone, and also to the rest of the team, thank you so much, Opsi. Thank you, Owolabi. Thank you, Timilei. Thank you, Joseph. Right. So let's keep it a day to tomorrow, same time, and do enjoy the rest of the day. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Yeah. Bye.